Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 30th day of August 2024. Welcome to our show today. We're going to talk about lots of topics, but I'm going to bring the whole gang in here. And how you guys doing this morning?
Doing great. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I love Karen. Good morning. Another day to get up and thank God for another day we have on this earth. I guess Karen, we brought it up, and Karen said you should tell everybody you're okay. You know what, guys? I'm always okay. It's always it's a frame of mind, and we're sad about things. My mom died on Wednesday, if you don't know that, but my mom passed away Wednesday morning, and she'd been in the hospital for about a week and a half or so, and it was her time to go home. And the doctor called me. We tried a lot of things to help her, but it just wasn't working. And at noon on Wednesday, noon on Tuesday, the doctor called and said, she was really kind of struggling in trouble. So we got down there at 2:30, and the first thing she said to me when I walked in the door, she looked at me and she seemed a little scared, but she looked at me. She said, "Don, I'm dying," and she's like, "I am dying." And within 2 hours, she was pretty well. She was really struggling and having a hard time talking. So she went down very, very, very fast. And so she died at 6:30 the next morning. And it was a different process than what my dad had. It was pretty sad, of course, but we all went out for breakfast in the morning and talked and that sort of thing. And I took a day to think things over and start, having a little rest. And then it's time to get back on the horse again and ride. I have a very easy time dealing with death, quite honestly. I'm the founder of Grief and Loss Today, Advances in Hospice, Advances in Bereavement, and worked in that area by funding this type of bereavement work and such. But more than that, I think that my perspective is that like when my dad died, I was very happy for him because he was past his suffering, and I would never put an animal through what a lot of people go through in suffering before they die. So I was pretty happy to know that they were in heaven with God, and that we'll see him again. We will. This is not the end. Death is not the end by any stretch of imagination. And when you talk to a lot of people who have had near-death experiences or have died and come back, there's certain things you can't fake when people talk about having died and come back. And when you confront that sort of reality, you realize that it's okay. All their pain and suffering was gone. You could tell immediately that my mom's pain and suffering was gone. It was, you could feel it. I felt the presence of God in the room. It was amazing. And I just, of course we're sad for certain reasons, but we also can be really happy to know that there's more and it's going to be okay. So I'm okay. And, it's time to get back to work, and we're in a war right now, and we're here for living.
What medically was wrong with her?
Well, I tell you what really happened. My mom was kind of a party girl. Okay, at 87 years old, she was still a devout partier. So like she loved to go to picnics. She loved to go to events. She would be on the go full time. That's the kind of person my mom was, right? If there was a party or a picnic or anything like that, mom wanted to be there. And so some of her friends in the where she was staying decided to take her to a home or out of the home where she was staying, and take her to a picnic. And she was very, very frail, too exhausted. No one would take her home, and she got overexhausted. So by the next morning, she couldn't sleep. By the next morning, I think she died. Honestly, it ended up being sheer exhaustion of a very frail person and a miscalculation of everyone around her. So the next morning she got up and she was one of my sons went over there because we always brought her protein shakes and that sort of thing. And she was not doing well at all. By 6 o'clock at night, her legs were paralyzed, or she couldn't move her legs, and she lost the ability to swallow. So they took her down to the hospital. Miraculously, she tested positive for COVID, and 3 days later, she tested negative for it. So I'm not buying any of that bullshit.
Yeah.
And she couldn't, but she also had a UTI by that point in time, which was chronic for her, and she just went down from there. She couldn't get it back, and I think that's really what did it.
Did she get the COVID injection?
Well, this is another thing that was a problem. I had a guardianship on her because she was very, very frail, and there was some times that, she wasn't able to make really good choices. Okay. So at the home where she was staying, against my wishes, without my knowledge, they just lined everybody up in a row a couple of years ago and vaccinated them. She didn't tell me because she liked to not tell people what was really going on. Mm-hmm. And the second time that they did it, she was paralyzed, and she ended up going to the emergency room, and it was a horrific thing because I saw firsthand what I believe was the doctors trying to kill her. And I will go on record. I would actually write an affidavit on what if I get to that. I've got a lot of things I'm fighting right now, but it was pretty clear to me. I actually fired both the nurse and the head of the nursing, as well as the doctor, and told them not to come back in the room again, because what they were proposing was not health care. It was absolutely she couldn't walk, and she was walking 2 miles a day. But like I said, she wasn't able to make choices on her own, and so she could be pushed pretty much into anything. And so the doctors were at that point in time, with her being paralyzed, they wanted to see if she could walk, so they stood her up and shuffled her feet for her, and said that she could walk. They were going to send her back, and if she fell again, just call them, and they pick her up again. I said, so you've done a thorough evaluation, I see. And they were like, yes. And I said, then she has osteoporosis, so advanced. So you're sending her back home. I said, I know what's happening. I said, you're sending her back there hoping she'll fall again, so you don't have to write this down as a vaccine injury, but that she died of a broken hip.
Yeah.
And they got pretty mouthy with me, and that's exactly when I fired them and sent them out of the room. The nurse that was at her head at the time, after I had words with them, looked at me after they were out of the room. She said, you did the right thing. And then they sicked a social worker on me, which that didn't work out too good for him either. I stayed on him for about 45 minutes and let him know exactly what was going to happen. And I really wish that there were more people out there that speak up and didn't care if they liked him or not, because most people cower at that sort of thing. You got to get in there and you got to tell them what it is, and you shouldn't be afraid of that. So after I told him, you either admit her, because I'm not exactly looking for change around the corner of the room, and that I would be suing him into oblivion, they decided to admit her. And so they admitted her. She was there for a little while, and they put her in a rehab facility for 3 weeks. So miraculous, they decided that there was in fact a reason to admit her, and then send her home. So after they diagnosed her with COVID this time, I was there. I went to the hospital that next day after they had her admitted and everything. And as I walked in, the nurse said, well, we're just getting ready for a remdesivir shot. And I said, no, you're not.
Seriously?
Yeah. I said, no, you're not. They had her in a fast track to death. And then 3 of the nurses absolutely attacked me, and I caught them in a lie. Absolutely caught them in a bomb-proof lie. And then the professional ass chewing started, and we started getting better behavior out of everyone. You have to know, when you go into a situation like that, you've got to have enough knowledge and be able to stand your ground when these people come at you, because they started, you have to have a mask on if you're anywhere in the hospital and blah, blah, blah. I said, look, you guys don't have a policy. I said, there's no policy here. I said, and one of the nurses told me there's no policy. So how can you tell me that when you don't have a policy?
Yeah.
And they started getting more bullying and more bullying until I caught them in a blatant lie, and they knew they were in a blatant lie. And I'm like, this is really shocking that you would talk to somebody whose mother is clearly in the process of dying. Is this how you treat people in a hospital when they're losing somebody, that you come up? Because the one nurse came up to me and she never talked to me. She said, you get a mask on or we will have you removed from this hospital.
Yeah.
I was like, really? This is how you talk to somebody who's losing a parent? I'm like, we already did that little goat rodeo. And I'm like, we're kind of done with this. I said, I've got 3 different people here telling me 3 different things. There's no policy. And I said, if you are, you people suck at having a policy, because you can't even get your own people on the same page to know what the policy is.
Was this a big hospital system?
It was St. Mary's.
Yeah.
And I've had good care there, but I took their names down. They will be getting a call, but after that, their demeanor changed radically.
Well,
and so the thing that we have to remember is that you have to trust your own self when you go into situations like this. And I mean, if the average person had a nurse that came to them, I was sitting in the lounge right next to Mom's room with my kids that came in. One of my kids, she came in and she looked at one of my kids who had not been in the room, because the policy changed by the second, and said, you were in the room. You have to wear a mask when you're in any common areas because you left. You're going to touch things and you can contaminate it. I'm sitting there, what the hell does that have to do with wearing a mask? She went from wearing a mask to touching anything. And it was like there was no sense in any of it.
None of it makes any sense.
So, she's like, you were in the room and you have to wear a mask. I followed you in there. And we were like, he was not in the room. There were 4 of us there, and you are lying. And it was like, so then the charge nurse for the floor came in, and I said, I caught her in a blatant lie. And I said, how can you justify never talking to a person ever that's been in there with her mom and have a nurse come up to you with no word said, nothing before of it, and come right off like a bad out of hell bitch, and look at somebody and say, you get your mask on or we're going to have you removed from this hospital.
Right. They'll call the police or security.
Yep. That was exactly what was said.
What causes people to get like that, to lose all sense of humanity? If you remember during the fake COVID thing, you get on an airplane and these stewardesses were like Nazis, man. I swear, if you took your mask on, they were all over you. Like, we're going to throw you out the window. And the hospitals became literally like Auschwitz, I
was targeted on the planes because they were running for governor. They were trying to remove me so I couldn't fly or I couldn't travel. And so we were on one flight, and I was on with one of my sons, and we got on the plane, and she looked at my mask getting on the plane, and she goes, you have to change your mask. And I was like, really? And so I said, well, that's okay. I said, well, I have another mask. I'll just change my mask. So I went to the back, and I changed out to a different mask. I had my on my pocket, and I'm like, okay, we'll play the game. So
what was wrong with your mask?
It wasn't the right kind of mask, but she never said that. So I changed my mask and sat down. Halfway through the flight, this woman came down the flight and surrounded me with all the other flight attendants and said, you didn't change your mask. And she said, you either get a different mask on or I am going to write you up, and it's a $2,000 fine and you will blah, blah, blah. And I said, I changed my mask. I said, here's the old one, and this is the new one I have on. That's not the right kind of mask, and I'm not going to give you a mask now because you lied. I said, I didn't lie. I changed my mask.
Oh,
the people around me that witnessed this absolute horrific abuse on Allegiant Airline were just horrified. The guy behind me, he was just like, oh my God, because they sat there and they just attacked me. And it was a pretty epic attack. And I just sat there. I'm like, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I don't have a different mask. And so I guess I'm here. The guy behind me, he had an extra one in his pocket, pulled one out, handed it over the seat. And I just looked at it. I said, oh, I guess I got the right one, since you won't give me one, because in mid-flight, She comes back mid-flight. I'm not going to give you one, because they were trying to figure out a way to write because they couldn't fly.
Some people just seem to absolutely relish in the authoritarianism of that.
So then I got off the plane and I took pictures of her. So I've got pictures of her. And I got off the plane and I said, I would like your name and your badge number. I'm not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
So she turned it around and refused to give me both her name as well as her badge number. And I got off, but that's okay. I've got her picture and I know what flight it was on. So there's going to be a day, you know, you got to pick your fight. So it's like, you can't fight if you there's not enough hours in the day to fight all of these fights. Now this week, I got to tell you, I filed one lawsuit on Monday, the afternoon after my mom died, because I'm not a person who's going to sit around and wallow in sadness. I'm just not going to do it. You know, it's not that. That's, everybody grieves differently. Mine is just to get active and do something, you know, put it into something productive. Not everybody does that. That's what I do. So went down to the courthouse in the afternoon after mom died, and we ended up. Let's see. No, I filed it. Oh, I actually filed it. It was Wednesday afternoon that I filed it, right after she died. It was a Monday, and filed it, and I got the summons all set and ready to go. And then yesterday we sent the summons out. So I'm getting my days mixed up here. What did you file it, Ralph?
Pretty sure that was Monday, and then I think some other stuff got sent out on Wednesday.
That's what it was. Okay, so I'm sorry, guys. My days are still running together a little bit. So yeah, so it was Monday we filed it, and then Wednesday. I don't know. I'll have to look at the dates now. I'm going to get them mixed up. But anyhow, filed it, and then we went back and we sent the summonses out, and we should get. We overnighted the summons. We should have. That's how it was. Filed it Monday. Summonses went out Wednesday afternoon, and we should get the proof back shortly. In fact, I could probably track it right now to see the summons that as soon as we get the certification back on this, then I will talk about this lawsuit. In the meantime, we had another one that I have a signature on with Tim Vetter and that whole group with United Sovereign Americans that went out. So there was two of them that were filed this week. And I really think, guys, that this is the way to go. We've got a group of us that are meeting to go through cases. And I think that you can expect to see lawfare on a large scale being fought by Donna Brandenburg. And that seems, I really believe that that's the only way that we can go, is we've got to keep chipping away at them and getting really familiar with the court system and how to do the pro se lawsuits is what has to happen. As soon as I find out whether they were accepted or not, which they should be, let's see, then I've got to get the tracking here. And as soon as we have all of that, the tracking and everything back on that, I will tell you what these lawsuits are all about. But I think we've got a real good shot at chipping away at this and holding people accountable. There's two more that we are working through right now. And what I can say is that I'm willing to fight this because I don't mind being in court and I can talk. So, you know, a lot of people freeze up when they get in those situations. For me, it's just like, you know, get on your little white battle pony down with the swords flying and let's take this thing, you know, not like physically, right? But it's like, it's where we have to fight. We have to know what we're doing. We've got to get familiar enough with it that we're comfortable, and then we've got to move the line forward. So as we change strategy here a little bit, I've got all these resolutions that I'm writing for the U.S. Taxpayers Party, which is the Constitution Party in the state of Michigan. I have to have some help from people if we want this state back. Nobody gets to do this crap that I'm seeing with President Trump, the rightful president of the United States, where they're hoping for a savior to walk in and save them all with doing a minimal amount of work but sitting at home. And I'm going to go back to, what are you going to do when he dies? My mom died Wednesday. President Trump is not immortal. He's going to die. Who's going to step in next? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be me? Who's it going to be? We don't have a sustainability plan right now. Who's next? Because the people that are standing around him suck.
Yeah.
We don't have anybody in government right now that shouldn't be tried for treason.
Yeah.
And so it's going to come down to you and me going down this path and being able to step into office and hold the system accountable. And I tell you what, this legal team that, this quasi-legal team that is working together on it, that decided to step up and help me, is extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. So we were going through other pro se cases and finding out how poorly written they really are, because we're going back to the actual Michigan law, the Constitution, as well as other cases that are in play. It's the only way to do it. And you've got to comb through it, and you've got to kind of argue it out with each other on the merits of what you're doing and how it will actually work in the court system, where to go, what to do, what to say, how to do this. And if you're doing it pro se, the law is actually on your side going pro se. By law, the courts have to help you. They absolutely have to help you. So they're not trying to keep you out as pro se. What they will is keep you out if you use an attorney.
Yeah. And you can use the AIs to help. They do really good, basic legal stuff.
They help you, but as a case in point to one of the resolutions I wrote, I had somebody that was part of the Taxpayers Party, the Constitution Party in Michigan, come back with a bunch of laws, which was brilliant. She did it on Chat GPT and went to the legal area.
Mm-hmm.
But reading through those and arguing through those, you look at it and go, yeah, it's pertaining to it, but it's actually, when you actually read it and reason it out, it's actually working against what you're trying to do. So you got to be real careful, because sometimes they hallucinate and they don't always give you back what you're seeing. So on the 14th of September, the Central State Committee is having a special meeting for the Taxpayers Party. We are going to go in a different direction than any party out there. We are going to be writing resolutions, and I will be spinning up lawsuits based on those resolutions of the party and trying to sue to get things done. So looking at the other parties and the nonsense that went on at the Republican committee, it was a disgrace. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to actually read you, because I think this is all part of it. And I'm going to read you. This is going to be to the horror of some people out there, but screw everybody right now. What I woke up to the morning my mother died. And
before we get too far off of it too, I would caution people too against the using AI for legal research is great, but make sure to check it, because like Donna said, it hallucinates sometimes, but then also most of the AIs are trained on a nationwide data set. And so sometimes they come back with things that only pertain to other states and don't actually apply in the state that you're in.
Well, there's reciprocation on that, but you have to make sure that that's a strong enough case that you can use laws in other states, because there is precedent set that you can use it from other states, but you better quote the law. And I can't remember the exact case. I've got it on file that allows you to use reciprocation from laws on the books in other states. So you can't just go half cocked on this. You've got to know more about it than just face value. You can't write a case that's just AI generated. You've got to dig into it. And it's good if you've got people that, as it is in my case, that are smarter than me, who know the law better than I do and have done this pro se fighting before.
Yeah.
You have to have help.
Yeah.
And assemble a team. So on Tuesday, it started out with, and I'm going to start naming some names here because I'm done with it. Okay. Bob Blackmore, there's 20 people in this chat, started out absolutely posting some stuff that's just pure vitriol. And he got kicked out of the Republican meeting on Saturday. On Saturday, he got kicked out of the meeting for, in my opinion, grandstanding like a 6-year-old. And this is how the parties work. People get in there and they do things that just like a 6-year-old standing on a stage, look at me, look at me, look at me. We refuse to work together. And so we just try to sit there and divide everybody and make our point. So he basically was calling out a whole bunch of people, and he's got all kinds of derogatory names for them in that. And calling people, felons, adulterers, bribe takers, and that sort of thing, and on and on. And Michigan Republican Party leaders, felons, adulterers, bribe takers, and blah, 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 right? What does this accomplish? Tell me what this accomplishes, attacking other people in the party. So Melissa Carone gets on. I wish you could share.
Melissa Carone is back in the scene.
Now, Melissa Carone gets on and says, "Wow, Bob, these comments are terrible, referring to women as whores." Dane Couture gets on and says, "I was on the budget committee and saw the numbers and they didn't add up. We on the budget committee were implored to sign an NDA to which was unanimously voted to be indefinitely tabled, meaning nobody was comfortable doing such. This was essentially hiding the most important form of transparency in her administration. The party of the Constitution wanted to take over full control of the county party matters." And it's like the party of the Constitution is the U.S. taxpayers party, to make no mistake about it, okay? They all talk Constitution. None of them do anything by the Constitution, and they literally sit there and fight each other. To say I was lied to and show a spine is incredibly insulting to me. This is Dane saying that, as you are referring to me as being too dumb to figure out what's going on. I am now, and will always stand for the Bible and the Constitution. I like Dane. Dane's a nice enough guy. If evidence comes to the state contrary, I will admit I'm wrong and have to live by my decision. But until then, I stand by my actions. I will be finishing my term and stepping away from the party and focusing on where God wants me to do his will. The truth will eventually come out as God is in control. Bob comes back. Dane, you did not have a legitimate quorum, deceived though you are, knowing full well the tricks that were perpetrated by a group of bribe-taking corrupt felons. You joined the likes of Warren Carpenter and almost twisted arms to get almost a quorum, almost as legitimate, and you know it. This is where I was done. I've listened to this group of subversive individuals fight back and forth, refuse to work together. And I'm like totally done with this, right? Totally done with this. So I said, it's amazing how God, so I started writing. It was the morning my mom died, and I was on the way back to the hospital. And I just found out that my mom, in fact, had passed. I was not with her when she died. And this kind of crap was the first text that came across my phone. And I'm like, I can't even put words, because these people have no care for anybody, for fixing anything, or the fact that there are people out there on both sides of the aisle who are actually living lives and in tremendous amount of stress and pain. No idea. They don't care. It's all about fighting each other and being right. So I wrote back, it is amazing how absent God is from the venue communication, this chat. This text came across to me as I found out my mom had died this morning. First text of the day. What a sad statement on the impact you are making on the world. I truly pity you. People don't matter to you, and anyone who reads the dialogue can clearly see it. Deborah Van Dyke came back. Sorry about your mom's death. I'm sure you'll miss her. I was thinking the very same thing. All flesh, no Holy Spirit, not worth commenting. Agreed. I'm totally disgusted at the political agenda. Deborah comes back. We are under God's judgment in America, and we think we're going to bicker our way out of it. Bob comes back, sending my deepest sympathies, condolences, Sister Donna. So now I'm sister, right? I'm like, all flesh and ego. How can anyone possibly say they love God and have this filth coming out of their mouth? And I didn't even read you the worst of the arguing that was above this. The arguing above this was shocking. The name calling and all of this. And I'm like, thank you, Bob. She's like, we will clean the barn in our MIGOP through. Wish we had your support. It's not for the faint of heart. I'm like, I was asked to come back to the party. Hell will freeze over first. I will not be associated with this type of degenerate behavior. Until the hearts of the people turn back to God, there is no fixing America. Everyone here should offer a sincere apology to each other and for getting nothing done but tearing each other down. Faint of heart in this context is just an excuse to be abusive and abuser. A strong person can get things done without destroying the souls of others. Destruction of others is sport, as sport is true weakness. Now, I had some time to think about this. Hell will freeze over first thing, but I'm kind of right there right now because there's I went to a couple of Republican events. These people have the worst leadership skills I have ever seen in my life. They get nothing done. Absolutely nothing. It is a waste of time for a coffee club. And they're still not getting anything done. And if somebody came in to fight it, they'd fight it anyway. It's just like if Jesus came back, they would be the ones that would say, well, he's not Christian enough. So anyhow,
Well, do you think this is purposely done, Donna? Like the Republican Party is unable to come together because there's elements in there of being a part of the uniparty, and their job is to just destroy anything that could make any difference.
Well, let me tell you, I came back with, I think I'm going to do an evaluation because this is crazy. So Blackmer says, Jesus entered Jerusalem riding on a donkey. So he's going to go all sorts of Christianese on me. And instead of saying, I'm sorry, instead of going to the Roman fortress to overthrow the Romans, he went into the temple. So keep going in there and keep swinging punches and keep fighting or you're weak, is what he's saying. To call out the abominations going on there. Looked off to some people. No, God is using it all. We cannot do anything in the state until we get honest leaders, not bribe taking tools. Please don't hide from actual truth. He's telling me this. Actual leaders? Who hid from an actual leader? The entire damn party. They went to right now. It's either Christina Caramo, who should have been removed because of sheer incompetence. And I wasn't the one that put Hoekstra up. Hoekstra should have never been voted in. He was the wrong candidate entirely to run the party. You got what you got. I had nothing to do with it. And if you're going to keep voting in people that are unqualified or absolutely incompetent or negligence, this is on you. You can't go into that with a mindset of we're not going to fix anything. We're just going to lob bombs at each other. They do nothing. There's nothing that they work on. So I said, good luck. This is me to Bob. Good luck. Honest leaders would recognize the degeneracy and look for a better pond. Actual truth, the problem is right here. You get your sorry ass dragged out of a meeting and grandstand like a 6-year-old on a stage to get attention. And what did you achieve? The world is laughing at your tantrum and more votes for anything but what you stand for. Nobody respects that. And by default, Kamala and the commies won a point. Thank you to the no leadership MIGOP. Blackmer starts again. John the Baptist went to prison for crying out alone, praying for you and your family, our state. We are fighting victory. Jesus reigns. Donna, listen to this now. Donna should listen to X22 and have an herbal tea today. Why don't you just say, shut up and go make me a sandwich?
Well, what is that supposed to mean?
Well, he was basically telling me to shut up. He said, Donna, we should all listen to X22 and have an herbal tea today, maybe with a question mark. It's like saying, shut up and make me a sandwich. I was done with it. So I started quoting scripture because I'm like, you can't fix this. And I'm like, if someone comes to you and preaches a Jesus other than the Jesus we preached, or if you received a different spirit from the spirit you received, or a different gospel from the one you accepted, you put up with it easily enough. 2 Corinthians 1:4. Realize when Jesus went into the temple, Jesus went after the religious people in the temple. He went after the political religious side of what was going on. He wasn't going after the sinners. He was going after the group sitting in charge as they are right now. And so here we go. We got Mathew 15. I posted this. Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit you will recognize them. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. Who does the will? I'm pretty sure that's not just lobbing bombs and fighting with each other. I'm going to tell you that. Maybe they'll actually go after something that's going to gain them some ground. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? And in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles. Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. Mathew 7:15-23. Melissa comes back on. Bob's behavior and hatred, Melissa Carone, that walked away from me in the run. And I got to wonder about, there's a number that comes to mind. Oh, I don't know, that maybe if I dropped something, there's some numbers that need to be chased down. And one of them is $70,000. And maybe we should go there at some point in time. $70,000. And where did it get paid and who paid it? Somebody might be sweating right now. Melissa Crow comes back. Bob's behavior and hatred, always attacking the very individuals on the front line, fighting for truth and freedom, is toxic to our movement. Bob is a Democrat plant attempting to destroy our party. I wonder who's sitting right there together. It's making it look like we're on the opposite sides. I don't know. Maybe there's the answer right there on the $70,000 issue that we should look into. Sister Donna from Bob, our sympathy is on your mother's passing. People know each of us. Donna, a false teacher, now he's going to preach to me, is the one who permits the abomination, desolation, supports it in the holy place. We pray to God, the Bible, and he does not tolerate gross sin and wickedness in his actual servants. Not a false God who embraces sin, corruption, and bribes perverting justice. Donna, don't confuse this in this misunderstanding. Nice to see Donna and Melissa back together. Then he goes into the setup. Curious, Donna, do you still take in and promote QAnon? And I just started listening. That's like, go ahead, put yourself out there. Like you did on the Brandenburg Express podcast with General Flynn's sister. Nice to see patriots who are open-eyed and not going along with the Unipari hoax. We love Trump, but we will clear out the corruption. Donna, God's mind and heart. And he just goes on and on and on and on. And he and Melissa go back and forth. Deb, John, another person go, it's time to end this nonsense. And then he starts posting pictures of derogatory pictures of things. And it's like, this just went on and on and on. And
Don, what do you think, for people that aren't in the trenches like you are, a lot of people don't even know who these people are, or even
they're all in on it. They're all
in on it, or they're fighting. It's like fake fighting just to be divided, or
that's exactly what's going on there. It's a fight. It's a fake fight going on in order to distract people and use the platform to basically tell people that are actually in there for the right reasons, to demoralize them and get them to shut up and walk away. Yeah. That little, we should all watch X-22 and have an herbal tea, Well, there you
go. Stay away from the real issues and have infighting. Divide. It's divided we fall, united we win.
When you see these people, and I could start naming a lot of names, because I did tell Mary Flynn, who I'm a friend, we're friends. As soon as I got into this, I said, I see this, how this is working. I said, all of these people that are part of the grassroots are actually paid political activists.
Yeah.
I'm like, ask yourself this question. How do they have this much time to put into this?
Oh, yeah, they're paid.
It's like, and half of them are in tremendous debt. They try to put people into debt like crazy, or for the promise, and then they swoop in and they get them out of debt. There are a few people that actually have actual money, that have, that have the time. Usually they're involved in, paying other people off to either shut them up or get them to do an action. And most people are weak enough to take it. Yeah. I was accused of paying people off because that's what they do. I never paid a single person off, not one. And I wouldn't do that. Nor would I ever take the 30 pieces of silver for any reason whatsoever. I'd rather lose first. The state can get what it gets, because if people aren't awake enough and aware enough to get onto the real fight, they're going to get exactly what they deserve, because the problem starts with we the people. God let the people wander in the desert for 40 years. He gave them a path out, and he let the people wander in their lack of faith and belief for 40 years in the desert. And until this state wakes up, or the people start waking up and getting in the real fight instead of the political cult fight, we're going to be wandering for 40 years, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse until we are stripped of everything, until all we have left is getting back to God. We could skip that little step right now and just get back to God. I mean, point A to point B would be the smartest way to do this.
Yeah.
But they've got so many people brainwashed into having to go down these go along, get along nonsense. We don't have any leaders. They have a fundraiser to have another fundraiser to have another fundraiser.
Yeah.
They'll pull 30,000 people into something, as alleged was the RNC. I don't believe that there were 30,000 people there. I was there. I don't believe that there were even nearly that many people there. Not even close. They were begging people to stay in the seats for the MIGOP because it made them look bad, because everybody got out of the seats and were hanging out with each other and, partying and that sort of thing.
What's it going to take for people to wake up to all this stuff?
I don't know. At this point in time, it looks like losing everything that we have. And it's like, I'm out there trying to get people to jump on. I never asked a thing out of anybody, and I had some great volunteers that jumped in that were doing stuff. I'm not going to take that away from anybody that was a volunteer, but we didn't have enough people. And
you're a role model. You're definitely a role model. And if everybody just did a tenth of what you do, we'd be in a completely different place.
All anybody has to do is take the links. If you can't get out, if you're not willing to stand up and you're afraid to stand up in front of people, doesn't matter. Not everybody has that skill set to be able to just get in there and hammer.
Right. You can write a letter to a congressperson or a senator or somebody. There's always something you can do. Or
get behind somebody that's actually fighting an actual fight. If I had more people that wanted to jump on, Donna Brandenburg, billionaire, is not a case. Yeah. I've never seen that. And
stop donating money to the Win Red and all that stuff.
All this other nonsense.
Feeding the beast.
That's the only way to salvage the state too. And I don't understand why people don't get this. How do you think they care? We're sitting here fighting abortion on a philosophical and a belief system.
Yeah.
Do you think you're going to change your mind just because somebody walks in and says, we should have the right to abortion? The other side feels the exact same way. This is a philosophical fight that we can't win. And Christians have sucked at the messaging and standing for things. Totally sucked at it. And so, say that they say that they want, sanctity of life, but they'll only do it in their churches or where they're in a safe spot. They don't go out there and fight that fight. Typically, there's probably 5% of the people out there that are actually fighting that fight. But the quick way to fight it, you get a governor in there who understands the financial part of this and starts cutting the funding.
Mm-hmm.
And cut it right down on all of these issues. If we had one honest governor in the United States, I don't believe we do. I believe we've got some controlled governors.
Well, we need somebody to figure out what they're doing with what are they doing with. There's a reason why they're promoting abortion so much, and they're doing something with these babies and body parts and stuff. Something bad is going on. We've got like 250,000 missing children. Something really bad is going on. And if we could wake up to that, then people may change their positions.
45,000 homeless people go missing without a trace every year. There are people in our national parks that go missing without a trace every year. There's some very diabolical things that are happening now.
Do you know, Donna? What do you know? Can you share anything? Like, what are they doing with all this stuff? Where are they going? It's not all exploitation, and I mean, there's something else going on. Something very diabolical.
Yes, it's very diabolical, and it's very, very, very much deeper. And I'm not going to just throw something out there without showing people the absolute evidence of what's happening. Because nobody would believe me even if I told them.
Ralph, do you think it has something to do with AI and actually using brains? And
I tend to think not. I think a lot of it is a little bit more sinister than that. And
Very much.
No, that
I
would be
tend to think-
sinister, taking people's brain cells and making some sort of AI that works with the human brains.
well, they've
Children's
tried
brains.
doing that sort of thing before, culturing brain cells and hooking them up to electrodes. And you can kind of sort of do that sort of thing, but it is, I don't know. A lot of the AI stuff is nothing more than really just pattern matching. So that would be one of the only ways that you could get actual intelligence. But I think from what I've seen of things, I think there's more about, more tending to do with the biological needs and dependencies of the people that have the money to be able to do that sort of thing and get away with it.
They're using it for themselves for quote unquote health reasons or whatever.
Yeah, I think there's more evidence pointing in that direction, personally. But
let me throw something out there on what your point was a minute, David. And this is one area to go into, but let me throw, as you're talking about this, let me throw something else out there, because there's a lot of stuff you can dig up, and this is archived. Let me throw it on my Telegram channel a minute. And
I tend to think, though, that the entire abortion debate would pretty much end if you just removed all the funding, because that's.
But why are they funding it? Like why? There's a reason why they're doing this. There's always some sort of reason. It's not like they care about the people.
If you want to control the people, and if you want to reduce the population that you can't control, and if you want to harvest and use for satanic purposes that which you can do, all of those things come together. Look at the minds and the hearts of the people who are willing to abort. Most of them are not going to be family people.
Yeah.
They're not going to build strong families and oppose the government. Well, that's a good thing for the government. You break down the family structure, you void the quality of life and the value of life.
Yeah.
You let people spread venereal diseases because they feel comfortable sleeping around without any kind of commitment. They don't know how to be responsible adults and have commitments that are meaningful.
Right.
And you lower the population. It makes it a lot easier to control people if there's less of them for you to control.
Which is obviously their big goal, right? Is to get rid of as many people as they can, especially in the northern hemispheres.
When you look at how many of modern social issues really can be traced back to an underlying agenda of the complete separation in people's minds of sex and reproduction.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of the social issues can be traced back to that core motivation of trying to separate those two concepts, which are inherently biologically linked. And so all of that is trying to kind of just unnaturally work against that.
Okay, I'm going to show you this presentation that is a internet. I'm going to see if I can get this to work here. Internet archive site, and it is by a guy named Dennis Bushnell. Future Strategic Issues, Future Warfare Circa 2025. And this came out, I believe, July 2001. And it's from Langley Research Center and such. And this guy is like, you start reading it, and it's like, oh my goodness. It's like it's Frankenstein. Potential warfare. Botsborg's humans, welcome to 2025, and how war will be fought. You might want to just go through this. I put it on my Telegram channel, but they were talking about, hang on 1 second. They start talking about the neural networks and how to experiment on human beings. Humans have taken over and vastly shortened evolution, and they're calling it Spaceship Earth. The crew are plundering the ship's supplies, tinkering with the temperature and life support controls, still looking for instruction manual, engaging in bloody skirmishes, increasing the size of the crew by 2 million per week. Off the planet, or of the planet, global warming, huge public work of the human species, genomic design and repair, mind children, cross-species molecular breeding, directed evolution.
Interesting.
Currently, 70% of the world's research conducted outside of the U.S. First order is percentage of GDP. U.S. produces 18% of the world's GDP. Order of 70% of research. And nanotechnologies is in 2001, 29% in Europe, 28% in Japan, 27% in U.S., and 16% in others. Technologies and ages of humankind. And it just kind of gets weirder as you go, because they start talking about brain manipulation and automatic robotics and truly turning people into robotics that serve them.
Yeah, and they're most definitely experimenting with trying to tie neurons into robotics.
Yeah.
They've been doing that for a very, very long time right now, and I think part of it is because neural networks have never really been able to match the way that a brain actually works. They've tried to simulate it to the smallest levels, and it still doesn't work as a whole the same way that a brain does.
That's why they have to insert things into brains to get the computing power of the human brain. So if you look AI and beyond here, human brain characteristics, capabilities, 100 billion neurons, 100 trillion connections, 200 calculations a second, slow speed of neural activity, 20 million billion calculated a second, excellent at parallel computing, pattern recognition, poor at sequential thinking, operates via random tries. Machine capabilities currently 10 billion calculations a second, 100 billion at 2004. By 2010, 20 million billion is available. By 2030, PC has collective computing power of a tower full of human minds. So we're talking about here wearable, implantable, in-person electronics, comms, computing, sensory augmentation, and health monitoring and brain simulation. So what we're talking about here is the merging of this came up, but I think there's more to it. There's so much sinister stuff going on. But when you look at this is NASA. This is a freaking NASA presentation. This is 2001. They were already working on this.
AI really, in my opinion, has not advanced much since really the 50s to the 70s. Most of the technology that we're using for AI right now was really developed back then. And the only reason why it's becoming more and more advanced and more accessible to ordinary people is just due to the increases in computing power, because the math behind it hasn't changed much. It's just it can be run faster now than it used to be able to be run, which allows you to evaluate more things and have more artificial neurons and better match patterns, because that's really all AI is about, is pattern matching. And I was actually talking to somebody last weekend about the weaknesses in AI, in that I think we have, people keep saying, oh, AI is going to be more and more and more advanced as time goes on, and it's going to surpass human intelligence and all of that. My argument is I don't think that's possible until AI is integrated with robotics. Because
or brain cells.
Yeah. Because the problem that you have is that right now we're in a feedback loop of you have more and more things that are generated by AI, which are now being fed back in as a training data set to future AIs. So now new AIs don't really have a good way of knowing what's real and what's been hallucinated by previous AIs. And when you're interacting out in the real world like humans do, when they're not just, sitting at a computer, when you actually get out and touch grass, you experience, this is objective reality. And you can make that distinction of learning, what's real and what's not by actually experiencing it. Whereas a lot of these AIs now, their only real way of experiencing the world is through what they can find digitally on social media and such.
Mhm.
And so until we can get to the point where we have AI integrated with robotics, you've lost that objective evaluation function that you could use for training AIs. So I tend to think we're close to the peak of what we're actually able to do with accuracy with AIs until it's really integrated with robotics.
Look at this. It's kind of interesting, but it goes right down through inexpensive motivational asynchronous web-based distant learning enables the demise of the U.S. underclass, wealth creation from enabled invention, stabilization of the world population, even more rapid technology diffusion, equalization of haves and have-nots, altered political military outlooks worldwide, i.e. changes everything. So, I mean, you look at what happened with COVID and all that nonsense. This has all been planned for a very, very long time. But there's a lot more sinister things that are going on, a lot more. But I think it's one of those things that we really need to question everything. And as it comes out, not be so stuck in exactly what we believe, because there's a lot of people in the social media arena who are basically QAnon, which is basically taking the Q posts and the Anon, smashing it together and using it as a way to make money. Okay, that's what QAnon was all about. There were Q posts, and they were just a whole bunch of questions. They were questions that you would look at, and you go do your own digging, questions. But the QAnon stuff, and General Flynn said that, QAnon were all people that were audience builders for the most part, trying to give their opinion on it, give people a direction, and make them as lazy as the political party people. That's the truth. And so, you have something to fall back on instead of actually building something or doing things yourself. And that's,
Keep you distracted.
it's a distraction. So that's how, we really have to question, and I mean question everything, because there are things that are going to come out that I believe are going to, once they do come out, rock this nation to its core. More than you ever thought you would ever have to, ever in a million years, have to deal with. And I hope everybody keeps their focus on God Almighty, because that's going to be the only place you're going to be able to turn. And when you look at the condition of human beings right now, and their ease of compromising them, their ease of being able to be used by in spiritual warfare by the other side,
Through this device right here.
and actually through that, and also through absolute possession and that sort of thing, we will be seeing things that will shock everyone of what people are capable of. And God talked about it in the last days. It would be poured out upon this nation and upon this world, not the nation, but the world. And when that happens, it's going to happen. He told us it was going to happen, keeps his word. I kind of believe that we're being given a chance to turn things around, to walk away from that golden calf, because that's what I see as people continuing to want that golden calf, the things that are familiar, instead of walking away and fixing the problem. It's comfortable to go back to the vomit that you already know doesn't work, instead of walking away and doing the hard things that it's going to take to right the world.
Yeah.
And he's leaving it up to us.
I think too, a lot of what I've seen of what's going on there, I think too, kind of part of it comes down to some of these people that are in power and positions to do really despicable things they know what they've done, and they know their eternal destination. And they are so scared of that they're trying to do everything that they can to grasp at anything that they can do, regardless of how it hurts other people, to extend their time here on this rock for another 5 seconds, because they know what's coming afterward.
Well, Ralph,
I want to go into something there too. I'm sorry, but when I don't know if you've ever seen somebody who's actually demon possessed. I have. And it is they're actually demon possessed. So when you think about what is capable by something that's a dark entity or in fact a demon, what falls under that category? And so it's something to absolutely ponder. What if we're not walking close to God, and the ability to influence, we're a vessel. It depends on what you put in your vessel, which way this is going to go for you. And God's given us all a choice. But the ability to actually play capture the flag here with God's children is it's real. And what they're capable of when someone is no longer human, but fully demonically possessed, I think that's where you're going to find the answer of what's happening to these bodies across. And I'll leave it there. If you want me to show you a satanic ritual sometime, I've got plenty to show you, but it takes a very strong person not to be wanting to throw up.
You showed me one, and this was years ago. It shocked me so much, and I only saw maybe 10, 20 seconds of it.
Most people can't get past
It was
that.
real, and it is still on my mind. And trust me, I've seen a lot of bad stuff in my life, being a surgeon and, working traumas and stuff. This was beyond anything.
Yes. Most people can, the one video that I showed you is probably about 3 minutes, 40 seconds long. So it's short enough. But the average person, I've shown it to a few people, the average person makes it through about 20 seconds.
It's shocking. Have you seen that, Ralph?
I'm not sure which. I've seen a lot of stuff. I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
It's a shocking one.
There's a lot of those.
Because people will say, I want to know, I want to see. But then when they do, they're like, it's like, it will never be the same again. And it's like, well, that's why we fight. Because they're doing this every day. They're doing this to children. They're doing this in our neighborhoods. They are not doing this down by the border where, in somebody else's backyard. This is in our backyard, every single one of us. And this is why we fight. So
maybe the AI is kind of an excuse when things like that do get out to the general population. People are going to question it and say, oh, it's AI.
Yeah, try to explain it away. I hate to do this. I mean, I did a lot of talking today. I'm sorry about that. Didn't let you guys talk, but we got into a lot of subjects, and I know there are a lot of people out there that really care about me, and we're really concerned about my mom and the whole situation. So, but back in the saddle,
Is there someone else coming on?
Get up. Yeah, we do. We have other people that are coming on right now. So, and I think I'm out of slots for them to join here. So. But I really appreciate you guys. I love you guys a lot, and you're true friends. And I just love you very much.
I care about you too a lot.
And my last day, I hope you guys are there.
Hopefully it won't be for a long time.
Or we all go together.
Okay, perfect.
That sounds pretty appealing.
That's more likely.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're all on the major watch list.
Oh yeah. Hi FBI.
Yeah, hi FBI. I got to go fix my hair. I was outside. I was dropping eggs off to somebody this morning, and I did some other things, and my hair is like, I've got like the weirdest hair. It's like a long-haired cat's been severely licked by its mother. It's terrible. So, well, thanks for being on, guys, and I love you a lot. And yeah, we're gonna keep fighting on.
Sorry about your mom.
What's that?
Sorry to hear about your mom, and our prayers are with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Call me after the show.
Yeah, let's do that. We got to do a chicken transfer here. Me and Karen and I. So thank you
All
so
right.
much. And I'll be right back after a short break here. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 30th day of August 2024. Welcome to our show. I'm going to get right into our citizen journalists. I hope everybody else joins here this morning, but it's the faithful, Casey and Melissa. How you doing?
Good. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing good. So lots going on out there. You sent me a video this morning, and what's happening in Casey and Melissa world?
Well, the Melissa world, let me see. So I'm actually working on joining a new coalition right now. This is the Christian Orthodox Coalition. And for those that don't know a lot about Orthodox Christianity, you might hear Serbian Orthodox, you might hear Russian Orthodox, you might hear Greek or OCA. And so something we've encountered as activists in our faith is that our elected officials view us as small demographics, right? So they hear the Serbians, oh, well, there's only, 500,000 of you. They don't realize that regardless of the jurisdictional or cultural labels to Orthodoxy, that we are one united church globally. The Ukraine Orthodox Church, which was recently persecuted and banned in Ukraine by Zelensky, is a lot of the reason we did this. So we're working right now and having an inaugural event up in Chicago. General Flynn will be one of our speakers. And so we're going to be working to work with our elected officials, the candidates, to have our voice heard, because it differs in some aspects from a theological perspective from Western Christianity and on important topics, geopolitical topics like the state of Israel and Gaza and Ukraine. And so we're going to be trying to raise awareness on those points. And all of us are conservative Christians, just trying to push here at the end and coming together to lift our voices higher.
Can you activate your camera?
Yeah, just a second. Let me.
Okay. So are you in with the Serbians, or are you which group are you in with?
Well, I mean, so that's the thing, is I'm Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia. But the coalition were all the jurisdictions. Like my jurisdiction is ROKOR. So the Russians that came after World War I, World War II, after the Bolsheviks took over Russia, then when they fled here, they established the Russian church outside Russia. But theologically and liturgically, we are all the same. We just have a different cultural flair to each one of the jurisdictions. So, Serbians are going to have more. You go attend their liturgy, they're going to have more of a Serbian sound to everything. You're going to see Serbian foods, Russian, and more of a Russian sound to the liturgical music. It's all the same words, all the same tones, just a different cultural flair to it, right? So, while I'm with ROKOR and a lot of the other individuals are with the Serbians or the Greeks, technically we're all one. So.
Oh, that's cool. When did that event with General Flynn is in Chicago on what, the 5th?
So yeah, that's on the 5th. That is on the 5th. And right now we're working on gathering our numbers. So I'm using my data research to start pulling into our elected, because see that we're not a small demographic. They view us as maybe a few 100,000 when we're in the millions. And one thing I'm finding that is interesting in diving down in the research on my own denomination here is that every swing state has a large Orthodox Christian population. And so that's one thing we're trying to get to the Trump campaign is, look, if you're wanting to hit these swing states, you're going to have to listen to and address the concerns of the Orthodox Christians. And when you saw the poll numbers go down after Trump announced that, anybody that doesn't support Israel, it needs to be deported, you saw the poll numbers drop. And I truly believe, after hearing so many Orthodox Christians myself, that turned them away from Trump. And so I've been trying to get through to them that, hey, we all have our differences on how we define Israel. As we see the current occupation in Israel are not the Hebrew Israelites. This is the same occupation, the same occupiers, the same entities that took over Russia, the Bolsheviks, the Talmudic Jews. So they're non-Torah Jews. And so we're trying to educate on that point, because we saw those poll numbers for Trump drop, and that's tragic. I mean, people don't understand, while Trump may not be perfect, and he definitely has some issues that I don't even agree with. I would love to sit down with the man to address them, but the alternative is, if Kamala gets in, we're going to turn into 1917 Russia. Our children and our grandchildren are going to be fighting the atheist, godless, communist spirit. It took Russia 70 years to eradicate, and they're one of the most powerful nations on the planet. So
I think you have a lot of people out there agreeing with you on this, that we're in a decent amount of should be a decent amount of concern out there, because when we don't have any issues with the Chinese people or the Jewish people or even the Palestinian people per se, it's the leadership and the governments of all of these nations are just absolutely godless and corrupt, and they're all working together as a global crime syndicate to oppress the entire population of the world. Yeah. That's what's really going on here. And they use the parties.
I said that yesterday, Donna. Exactly what you just said. When you have these people that are coming from these countries, they're used to the behavior that they're exhibiting in the United States right now. So what you have in Colorado, especially when they're coming out of Venezuela and places like that, they have been fighting each other for so long for the small amount of resources that they have over there. And right now, what they're doing is they're trying to instill fear in the community, which is typical when any gang moves into your neighborhood. That's that's how you control people, is with fear. And you see it in Chicago or Colorado right now. But if we don't, it's like a cancer, it's like a disease. If you don't stop it, it spreads, and it spreads fast. So I said that yesterday about as far as like where they're coming from and what they're used to. But it's like people are at a standstill with their hands up in the air saying, I don't know what to do. I'm just one person. Each of us are one person too.
Well, on the point of the Venezuelans, this is something I highlighted, what we see in Aurora, Colorado with the gangs. Now, this is something I highlighted in my paper all the way back in December. The Venezuelans I worked with, they told me themselves, the ones from rural Venezuela were raised with morals and faith. And so, they're over here trying to do the right thing. And they called out their own people from urban Venezuela as being the ones that are going to take advantage of everything and cause problems. They said they don't even want them here either. I mean, that's what they were getting away from. So, this is stuff I called out. And the other thing is I called out from the socio-psychological perspective, which that's my background in psychology and sociology, is that, these people are coming from communism. And I'll read this right here. I said, from a social psychology perspective, I see a psychological similarity between different individuals from Venezuela, their eagerness to stay busy working. From what I have gathered in conversation, many of the men do have a tendency to be depressed, which is also a shared social effect of living under communism, as it robs men of being able to meet their essential nature and God-given duty to provide. Feelings of resentment, anger, confusion, disappointment, frustration, hopelessness, irritation, sadness, loneliness, and embarrassment are common when basic needs cannot be met. This is where I believe the potential for criminal behavior increases and chaos will ensue if this population remains stagnant. And they have remained stagnant. They have just been running around. I mean, nothing's being done. And while what they're doing is wrong, I think this has set everything up for bad players to be able to go to them
Melissa, it's
and
not
use
just that, though.
their anger at their current situation. I think that's how these gangs are coming up. And one point on these apartment complexes that they are breaking into and now taking these over. Well, what do you get at an apartment complex? You get an address. You get to, and at that address, you're going to be sent a mail-in ballot.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily about voting for the Venezuelan gangs. They're taking over.
I think we're getting a bad connection here right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's where I don't think that's their intention. They're not, the Venezuelans are not going in there, oh, we're going to vote. But the other side is going to, market on that.
They're going to use anything that they can get their hands on to cheat, including registering multiple people with those addresses. And there's not enough people to keep tabs on that. What say you, Casey?
I'm just kind of listening to the conversation. This whole thing in Aurora, Colorado is interesting.
Sorry, guys.
No worries. I was at an event last night with Governor Little and it was a town hall sort of type event called Capital for a Day. And one of the women, a woman there actually asked a question about Aurora, Colorado, and she was concerned about her safety and that sort of thing. So that incident is resonating, obviously, far outside of Colorado. So it is a very interesting. I've talked with a lot of people recently too, and I don't know, a lot of people are very a bit negative about what's going on and very obviously becoming extremely concerned. I'm noticing it more in society locally. Are you guys noticing that too? More people are definitely talking about this more often?
Yes, absolutely. And it's becoming more common to talk about both politics and religion, which they used to be taboo for a long time because they tried to get us to shut up and not talk about these things. And now everybody, I know just about everybody I know is talking about this full time.
Yeah, everybody I'm talking to too, but that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. When you don't talk about something, you have issues like we're having. I'm sorry, guys. I am obviously teleporting, so I'm going in and out. But what I was talking about with the Venezuelans in Chicago, or why do I keep saying Chicago? Like, that's the third time I've said that. In Colorado, they're establishing their territory right now. Pretty much is how I look at it. But I was in a live the other day, and they asked this guy, young guy, why are you going to vote for Kamala? And his response just baffled me. He goes, because I think she will be the one to give the equality to the migrants. And I thought, well, what about the equality for the American citizens? So when Melissa was talking about, the depression and the stuff that is a result of where they come from and where they're at now, a lot of our men are going through that same thing right now because of the struggles that we are having with our economy. So you're going to come to a point where you have not only your own citizens, but the citizens that you fed a pipe dream to, an American pipe dream, to come over here, that same thing, because it's not what they said it was, not for us and not for them either.
Yeah, it's really a tragic situation, and just even going back to the fact that our nation is a nation of laws and not men, and we're supposed to be following the law, and nobody's following the law. We were looking. Did you guys see that video of Jocelyn Benson, our Secretary of State here in Michigan, threatening anyone who would question the elections here? This is
I've seen that.
Yeah,
so how is that any different than
You
what
play
Trump
it?
did?
yeah, let me go ahead and find it for you, and I will play that, because this should be so shocking to everyone that
Well, then
there's
the issue with Tina Peters in Colorado. Sorry to cut you off there too, but
right. Okay, that's what we do. Wait, there's always a lag here, so it's just the way that it is when you're live. So go ahead, and I'll find it and send it. I'll put it up my Telegram channel in a minute.
And I was just mentioning Tina Peters. I saw her 2 years ago at Mike Lindell's Cyber Symposium in South Dakota, and that was interesting because that event was, I guess, after the fact we found out was about to be raided by the FBI, but luckily it wasn't. But she was there telling her story, as running the elections in Colorado, and now she's been arrested, right? Or she's been found guilty on multiple charges in the state. So things are turning for the worse in the country, it looks like.
I don't know if Melissa touched on it, but did you touch on the ballot thing, Melissa?
I haven't yet. No.
Okay, so yesterday my mom comes over and she brings me from her house a absentee ballot application, and it went to her house. She got one for her, she got one for me, and she got one for my daughter, who doesn't even live in the state of Ohio. She lives in Kentucky. So the process used to be that we would just go online, and if you wanted an absentee ballot, you go online and you request it. Well, now they're sending them out in mass to the people because they're going to push this mail-in voting thing and voting early. But my question is, I have never in my life requested an absentee ballot. I've never voted absentee, and neither has any of my mom or my daughter. So why their system has to be outdated? Wherever they're getting the information to send to has to be outdated, because I haven't lived there in years. But now they're seeing them pop up in places like, was it Houston, Melissa?
Yeah, well, I'm pulling up the post real quick. So what happened was I was at, in Fort Worth last week, and somebody handed me a ballot application, and they're like, "Oh, do I need to fill this out?" And I'm like, let me look at it. And so I start, reviewing it and see that, this is coming from a place called the Voter Center. So I sent it to Hernando Arce. He is a Texas, citizen journalist investigator, and he has a much bigger following than I do. So I sent it to him, and he started digging on it. Now, here's what he said. He said, now, one of my followers, me, sent that to him. He said the document, and this is here in Texas, the document was a pre-filled voter registration form. It looks very official, and it states, do not discard. He did some digging, and the organization behind this, the Voter Center, Voter Participation Center, has Marxist ties. And they're obviously another NGO that has a history of issues in the past. The founder, Paige Gardner, out of D.C., previously worked with the Bill Clinton campaign. The CEO, Tom Lopak, who recently deleted his X account, is sending out unsolicited voter registrations across Texas. So we're looking at this. Why are they doing it? Well, if you look at the reports and the history in the past on this organization, let me pull that up. They have a lot of reports of when they do this, it overwhelms the state Secretary of State. So all of a sudden you have thousands of these applications coming in that are being sent from Marxist, entities. And, when you have these workers, limited workers in the Secretary of State, and they have thousands coming in, well, then you're going to start missing those key points, right? They're just going to start putting them in the system,
putting the
to
applications
get
in.
it done. Yeah.
Well, my thing didn't have any identifying information on it, but it was a pre-filled out ballot with my name. I'm sorry, absentee ballot application with my name and my old address, and then I think it was a 9-digit number on the top. But there was no identifying information other than it says it was coming from Frank LaRosa, which is my secretary. And then I tried to Google, I tried to find the like they had this icon on the top, some kind of, I don't know if it's a logo, but the logo wasn't in the system, so I'm thinking it's some kind of clip art. But I get that people are wanting people to vote early because they think that is going to help us vote Donald Trump in. But in my mind, especially now that I've got this absentee ballot, in my mind, if we vote early, then they will know what they need come November, and they will be prepared to stuff however many ballot boxes they have to with the amount of number, because there's only so many registered voters. It comes back to, how did this amount of people vote for Donald Trump and Joe Biden combined when we don't even have that many registered voters?
Right.
So
Well, and I
I was
think
not saying to vote early.
this is going back to the fact that we have to learn to think for ourselves instead of just taking orders. And it's like, if you're playing a game of poker or you're playing anything, you don't lay your hand on the card on the table, all your cards on the table. I will be voting in person. I will not be voting absentee ballots because that's how they're rigging it, and I'm not going to participate in this because I think it's one of those things that is, just because somebody tells you to do something doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing. I'm sorry. I won't just jump on somebody's ship here, but I want to show you this tweet here. And this is something, so I put together, I've got a little quasi legal team, and we've been doing lawsuits and that sort of thing. So 2 of them got filed this week. And there's going to be another one, but I think that we put it off for a week because we found a better angle to come at it by. So we're taking our time, and there's several of them that will be coming out, and I think it's going to be kind of a good thing. So Washington, Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson issued a threat to any local election officials who choose to withhold certification of election results in the event of fraud. We will come for you. In other words, they plan to cheat. Again, she's getting ahead of the story by forcing counties to certify fraudulent results they get. Now, I'm going to tell you what the reality of it is. I'm going to show, oh no, and watch. They're going to probably try to block this, but watch, we're going to play it anyway. Listen.
If someone were to violate the law and level, we will come for you. So any local certifier thinking of skirting the law and not certifying the vote, don't even think about it, because we'll get, and not certify the election at the local level, we will come, and not certifying the vote, don't even think about it, because we'll get.
That was what Secretary of State Benson came. It is threat and coercion. Okay. But so they're basically saying that. So what's that?
I'm thinking,
so she's basically saying you cannot question the election. And if there's even something, so this puts into question the word certification, because certification, we dug into the law, and the actuality is we don't have factual certification in the state of Michigan. The law, if you actually read the actual law, she's technically right, because they've wrecked the law enough that she could probably skirt through this by quoting that. However, there's one thing she missed. Actually, there's a couple things that she missed. And so what they're going to do, if somebody were to say anything, they would say, well, that's what the law reads. You have to certify anything given to you. If you're in a board and you are giving the results, you may not question it. You have to certify it, or you're going to be prosecuted. And the prosecutions that they lay out are extreme. Now,
Donna, I think that overall, if Donald Trump wins, which if what numbers I see, I would assume that he's going to. I don't think they're going to willingly give up power anyways, because it's not just her talking about not certifying the election. You have Pelosi that is talking about it. You had Raskin come out and say it. So when he does win, I don't think they plan on getting out of that White House anyways, because they're using the civil, it's going to be a civil war conditions. Well, it's not going to be a civil war. It's going to be a revolutionary war, but that's beside the point. I think they have no intention of giving up that White House if Donald Trump wins. And they always tell us what they're going to do. And that's a prime example of what they're saying right now. And that whole video that she said is don't say that you believe that Donald Trump or that Kamala Harris didn't win, because then we'll come after you, just like they did Trump.
And look how smug she is. Look at how smug she is in that video. She's smug because if you read the law, the state of Michigan has no accountability and no certification process that certifies for accuracy. So whatever they're handed by law, this is what they've done. They've made it unlawful to question it. And that then they've written it in the law that you have no right to really question it. You have to certify it, or you will be prosecuted. And that's how the Michigan law. So this has been in the fix for a long time, but that's okay. There are bigger problems that they're going to have because of this. And smart people figure this stuff out and find other ways around to get the job done. So
the problem they're going to have is us.
Jocelyn Benson, as smug as you want, there's going to come a day of reckoning. And the cheat put in by the Secretary of State's office, Dana Nessel, Gretchen Whitmer, the entirety of the legislature, because they all had to be in on this, because they had to sign this stuff in. They're all guilty. They have all committed treason. And let me remind everyone, what does treason look like? Well, just let me show you here a minute. I'm going to pull this thing up. I think I put
Dan, Hollis. Hello, wake up. Are you sleeping?
Yo, I'm here. Don't worry. I'm here. I have a lot to say. You know that.
Yeah, you
Hollis,
give me a chance to talk.
Hollis is sick, unfortunately. We're traveling, but Hollis is sick, my little angel. So she's not here, but I am. But I'm just being nice and listening. Thank you, Casey.
So let me read a post. I put this post out earlier. So I want you to focus on this whole treason issue right now, because this is what we're dealing with. These people are traitors. They launched a coup against the United States of America. Jocelyn Benson is a traitor. This is treason. Gretchen Whitmer is a traitor. She's committed treason. The entire legislature at this point has committed treason because they signed these things into law. Okay, against the Constitution. So get this: treason. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer death or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years and fined under the title, but not less than 10,000, and shall be incapable of holding office in the United States. And basically, the dam is breaking on this because they are using illegal laws to manipulate the outcomes of our elections, to skirt the truth and the highest law in the land, which is in fact the Constitution, the moral code of having an honest, free, and fair election. And they're trying to justify it by these laws that obfuscate the truth. That's okay.
When was the last time anyone's been charged with treason in the United States? Does anybody know?
Not nearly enough, and not close enough to the time right now. So I don't have the answer to that. But in my lifetime, I don't believe I've ever heard of treason charges. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah. So when the general public hears that these people are treasonous, the first thing that my mind goes is, yeah, they're treasonous. But what are we going to do about it? Because right now, what I get from all the people that I talk to, the people have lost faith in the American government and judicial system. They don't see any accountability. And that's on both sides. When I speak of accountability, there's people that need accountability on both sides. But
well, they should lose faith in it.
Yeah,
They
they've lost
should lose
faith.
faith in it. We have a proxy government, a deep state proxy government that has infiltrated every single area of our nation. If anybody believed this stuff, they'd have to be an idiot, because the proof is there. It's a proxy government. It's the same thing that was going on in Ukraine, Korea, North Korea. And there's so many proxy governments by this global crime syndicate going on. It's not even funny. And we are the last stand. And we're going to
Yes.
have to decide that we're willing to die for this, or shove it in their faces and start removing these people from office and charging them with treason because they committed treason. The people that are flying the Palestinian flag on American soil protesting, if they're Americans, they're committing treason because they were protesting under a foreign flag.
Well, technically, treason has to be against the people, right? So wouldn't it be we the people that have to charge them and make the claim?
I keep saying that. I keep saying
So
it's going
pro-se
to
is
be
the
the
way to
people
go.
that fix this, not this government.
Yeah, they're not going to do it. They would have already fixed it by now. They're not going to do anything.
Right.
How
And
are they going to fix it against
the problem
the charges
we have,
against themselves? They're not going to say, "Oh yeah, we did the wrong thing."
Yeah. And the problem that we have, and this is where all this attention being on the presidential campaign really infuriates me, is regardless of who becomes president, if we have a strong Congress, then we have a buffer. So where's all the attention on the representatives and the senators that can actually bind the hands of the president if need be? And secondly, we have to understand too that, like you're saying, that everything has been infiltrated. And one of the biggest issues we have across this country is that these, Marxists, these infiltrators are all throughout our appeals courts. And so I'm wondering, why have the Republicans not put as much attention that's needed on the appeals courts? Because all these cases we put in since 2020, anything we put in moving forward, if it's going to be, denied in the district court, once it gets to that appeals court, if it's full of Marxists, it's not going to get anywhere there either. So why are we not? To me, our judicial system needs more attention than the executive branch at this point.
Well, it's all corrupt. It's like the DOJ is going after Wisconsin, a case that was filed in Wisconsin too. And they're basically, the DOJ is an unconstitutional branch of government to begin with. And most of these, all of these 3-letter agencies and Cannon just quoted the law, Norton versus Shelby County. She put it in the last lawsuit with President Trump. They're all unconstitutional and do not exist. And so somebody's just got to start going through there with a bunch of pens and Xing them right off of existence. They're unconstitutional, and they've popped up, and we let them do this. Now it's up to us to bring them back into true north here, because they're all guilty. So Dan and Hollis, Dan, you want to say something?
A very wise man once
Yes,
said,
Dan, say something.
a very wise man once said, when the people fear their government, there is tyranny. When the government fears their people, there is liberty.
Yes.
Nothing will change until we bring the hand of God and fear to these bastards once and for all. And that was the beauty of January 6th when I was there and looking out on top of the stairs. And I said, you know what? Even though I see the PSYOP, I see the BS, it was a beautiful moment in history, because when they announced that they evacuated Congress, I'm like, maybe for once, even if it's for show, maybe for once, just for a second, they have that little emotion, that little twinge of fear in their hearts and souls. And it made me the happiest and proudest I've ever been to be in this country, to be an American. And this is what needs to happen. They want us to resort to violence. There's strength in numbers. And, we've spoken about this ad nauseum, and I have to bring it up again. I hear so many Christian folks saying why they're not voting for Donald Trump. And I see 60 million Christians who don't vote. So their words mean nothing to me. I see these pro-life groups, these leaders out there doing their planned turn on Donald Trump while they rake in $14-15 million a year in their salaries for the not-for-profit industrial complex complex, which makes me sick, and they can all kiss my ass in hell as well. I hate them all. I hate the grifters. I hate the fakes. I hear the people, well, what about the plight of the illegal in the countries they come from? You know what I have to say to them? 1776 can become 2024. Nut up and do something about your own damn country, because I don't give a shit about your issues, about your humanitarian crises. I don't care about how many orphanages people want to open in countries overseas and how they want to save the children. I want to save and protect and preserve and defend the American people, which I swore an oath to do. And everybody else in elected office swore that same oath, and they don't give a damn about it. I am sick to death of us having to try to figure out the world's problems when nobody cares about us. And these righteous figures saying, well, look at what I've done overseas to help people. And, this is why I'm giving money over. Then move. Leave America. You sicken me. I don't care. I don't sit there and say, oh, you're such a good person, because look at all you've done in Africa. They have problems. Sucks to be them. Sucks to be them. Grow some friggin' balls and take back your country by any means necessary. And everybody wants to make excuses for all the lightweight crap. Make excuses for, well, I would like Trump, but he said this. Oh, Trump said this. Oh, Trump said. Shut the hell up and vote for your communist Marxist asshole, because you are a brain dead idiot too. I don't care. I don't care about these stupid, mindless, feckless, weak people. Oh, we have to try to convince them. I'm not convincing you of shit. If you're that dumb, that blind, that naive, then you don't warrant my time, attention, care, or concern. Because I am concerned about saving this country. And when they announced on election night that Comrade Kamala won the election in another psyop and how they're going to do it, you know what? The people need to do more than just bitch on Twitter and bitching here and there. They need to start forming around their state capitals, showing up, showing out, standing firm, and put the fear of God into these people. And as far as I know, treason is kind of a felony. And you know what? Maybe we got to start making some citizen arrests. That's where Ivan is 100% on point with his whole plan, with everything he said. And it's time for us to actually start being about action versus talking. We've given them the chance. We've given them the chance time and time again to do this and resolve this peacefully. They are openly declaring their hatred for us in the public, in the news, online. I'm tired of it. I am so tired of it. And people want to sit there and go, well, maybe, we can't do. We spend so much time focused on what we can't do, what we shouldn't do, versus what we are going to do. When I was on the border in 2007 with the Minutemen Project, and I said then, 11 million illegals, and we all knew there was about 30 million. Do you think it got better in these years? No. They have built an army of illegal aliens with their votes, with the ability to steal anything they want. And they've been given safe harbor, safe haven. Like I've said before, you have a landlord that rents to illegals and you know it. Deport them all, charge the landlords with harboring, aiding, and abetting, and charge them with treason and seize their damn property. Anybody who knows me knows I'm not about property seizures, but you know what? When you're openly housing illegal aliens and criminals from the law versus American citizens, take their damn property. Turn it into a military homeless shelter. If you're an employer that hires illegals, they're cheap labor. I don't give a shit. Your cheap is not my problem. Take their damn business. Charge these people. Set a precedent. As I've said before, people say I'm extreme. When they incur our border, it's an incursion. That's an act of war. One shot will change the dynamic of everything. And I'm not advocating violence, but you know what? You literally have the just cause. When Governor Ronald Reagan told the National Guard in California, if need be, utilize deadly force, what happened? They ended up taking one shot and killing one person. And then Ayers, Obama's buddy, after he got done doing a pipe bomb in the Capitol, said, well, maybe this level of activism isn't working. So we're going to have to try to reformulate and redo our strategy. And what did he say? We're going to focus on getting them young. Because when we get them young, we have them for life. Whether it takes 20 years or 50 years, we go the education system and we become everything we claim to be but aren't. And we pervert the truth. And what have they done? They've established a coalition of brain dead idiots, and they have backed by the CIA, which has been in bed with the media, in bed with the financial institutions, in bed with pharma, in bed with the educational system since the 50s. Mockingbird wasn't just about propagandizing the media, so they love it. They love it. The last good Democrat, as I've always said, was JFK, and he had his problems, but when he said those famous words, they took him out. And they took out his brother for good cause. RFK Jr., you know what? He's not my most favorite person in the world, but I like what Trump is doing, and I like that he's out there saying the shit that normally Trump would say. And you know what? If I were Trump, I would nominate RFK Jr. for the CIA director, just as an FU to the system. I want the CIA to die. I want the FBI to die. I want the DOJ to fall. I want Homeland Security, which never should have been in existence in the first place, to fold. End these organizations. These, I call them organizations because they're just for profit and for death and destruction. They are disgusting. There was a good video that came out yesterday from Steven Crowder, the Mug Club thing. He's doing his own undercover journalism now, and he had somebody with a lawyer from the UN admitting that he is the definition of what they call a globalist, and how much the UN doesn't believe the polls put out in the media, and they're terrified that Donald Trump is going to get in because with only 4 years to go, he's going to bastardize the global government push. And they're terrified that he's going to not give the UN, and this guy admitted on camera, admitted the charter of the UN is to create a global government, a global citizen, what we've always known, Hitler's wet dream, or more notably, those who funded Hitler, which no one ever wants to talk about, you know, the high up Zionist intelligence and the United Kingdom, who actually funded it. Oh, that would never happen. Do a little bit of research. This has been their wet dream always. They got their EU, they want the NAU, and this brain dead idiot walking puppet jackass with her white old liberal, as Malcolm X always said, sitting next to her. They are brain dead. They know nothing, but they will do as they're told. And what they will do is usher in everything to fast track Agenda 2030, which everybody knows was Agenda 21 up until Trump got elected. Then they shifted plans and turned it to Agenda 2030, and it's been out there for all to see. And so many people, I see it online, they're arguing about, well, how do we get the Christian single mother? Or how do we get the this? And how do we? I don't care. I don't care. We sit there, how do we pander to them? They can kiss my ass. Get right with God, because I don't give a shit about you. You deserve the pain and the suffering. Because you want to sit there, well, you have to earn my vote. Yeah, a politician does have to earn your support and your vote. But we're going to spend the whole time catering to one demographic? Honestly, I'll be respectful. F off. Okay? Like, it's disgusting. We had
We
to sit
really,
here.
we
Go
really
ahead.
have to come together as Americans. I mean, the point
Yes.
being is that all of this, you know, when I see special groups wanting special favors, or they want to be, you know, that sort of thing, I think there's usually a money transfer or there's an advantage given to them. And all of us need to drop this and look at each other as one family. One family. We're human beings, and we're not going to agree on everything. We may look different, we may celebrate holidays different, but we are one family, and we're supposed to stand and protect each other's rights, not control them, not make money off of them, not try to, you know, take an advantage of them, but to serve God and serve each other here
Yes.
as one family, because this division is nonsense. Casey, what
Donna.
say you?
It is.
Oh,
and,
Oh,
you
yeah, I was
know,
just going to
it-
say go ahead.
Go ahead, Casey. You've been quiet.
Outside of our local human rights education institute here in Coeur d'Alene, there's a large stone tablet of the preamble of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And so we know that, of course, with Agenda 2030, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which encompass social, environmental, and economic aspects of social equality, essentially, you know, we're seeing that being folded into our local communities through these human rights groups. Of course, I'm sure many people that are aware of that, but like we've talked about on here before, they're tied in directly with the DOJ and FBI. They have carte blanche contacts And so this is painting a very dangerous picture because we're seeing that translation from the global aspect, and we're seeing it being adopted, or we have been seeing it adopted, of course, over the years, and now it's implemented in our communities locally. And that's one of the ways you can really delve into this more, is to do more research on your local human rights groups and try to find those ties with your local law enforcement agencies and present that to the public and say, look, these are emails from the police department and these human rights groups with FBI agents talking about a Catholic rosary walk. You know, like, what's going on here, guys? Because it is happening behind the scenes. And as we've, of course, discussed here, also there's a campaign out of the Department of Justice called United Against Hate, and it promotes the public to report hate incidences, which are logged by the FBI and DOJ. And then if someone does commit a hate crime, which involves race, color, religion, etc., gender, then the additional hate incidences could be translated into hate crimes and additional charges. So, you know, we're in a very dangerous predicament, and a lot of people are not quite aware of that. You know, I live in a very beautiful area here, and it's very deceiving, but a lot of people that are liberty-minded are being targeted in their local communities.
I think that's happening. That's happening all over the place, and it's unfortunate. Have you been watching what's been happening in the prison systems too? There is an increase of people that are dying in the prison system, which is why I think it's really important to put the J6ers on here, because there's a lot of people who have really suffered, and there's been deaths and such, but there's people that they're literally abusing to the point of death. I have a couple of videos I'm going to put out there, and it's a reality. Our prison system is the worst, is just the worst. There was one woman that they're depriving people of actual care, their medicines. They're literally poisoning people and beating them. And nobody's saying anything because they've got some sort of weird protection out there. And it just, you know, there was a young woman that died recently, and there's a video of her on the floor, and she is trying to get up. She's basically paralyzed, and they basically dragged her out of there. But she went in healthy, and and it was not a capital crime or anything like that. She went in there healthy, and she ended up dying from it. I can't even believe that this nation is the same nation I grew up in. It's shocking.
A lot of us feel that way, Donna. And it's sad because I think our generations were the last generation that will truly understand what it was like to be a proud American. And we've come, very far in the line of corruption with our government. So this blind faith that the people have, that the government is going to protect them, I'm so astonished when I hear people say that, because I don't know anybody that is living the life that they would prefer, or even at this point being comfortable in the life that they chose for themselves. And a lot of people are starting to talk about religion and politics because it's been shunned for so long. Oh, you don't talk about politics. Well, we need to talk about politics. And I talk about politics with my friends because I want to know who I have around me. Because I am convinced that with the level of neuro-linguistic programming that is out there right now, and just the way that they believe everything that is being told to them, it's like, they say they're sheep. I say they're like little program robots. And all they have to do is incite something, and then they have an entire, millions of people that are going to stand up against the true patriots, us, because they're calling themselves patriots now. And I'm thinking, no, there ain't nothing about you that is a patriot. The only thing about the left right now is destruction and lies. It's all lies. And these people believe it. So when people are like, oh, we should wake them up, well, Dan said no, that time has passed. Waking up people is over with at this point. Right now, we need to come together as the people, because it's going to be the people that save this country. We need to come together as the people, our counterparts, and figure out what are we going to do. They're always one step ahead of us. And until we get together and figure that out, then they'll stay that way and we'll continue to live the way that we live. But I anticipate we're getting ready to have a stolen election because of how much the Democrats are starting to talk about Trump stealing the election.
Well, and you've got Merrick Garland that is looking at prosecuting those counties that are doing paper ballots hand count. If they don't use the machines, this stuff it's getting wackier, and we need to keep our eyes open for that sort of thing, because they are not going to give up control. The communists are not going to be able to give up control easily because they can't produce anything. These people are parasites. They live off the back of Americans, and they produce nothing except for paper, even though shouting, oh, we're all globally aware and such, and we're fighting for the environment. They're the biggest problem of the environment.
Well, you notice the things you don't see in like Russia that you see over here. Like you don't see the chemtrails. I don't know what the mosquitoes are like for you guys, but in Cincinnati right now, they're so bad. They're huge mosquitoes. They leave these big ass welts on you. It's almost like a hornet. And so they're taking us out. As soon as Rockefeller realized he could make modern medicine out of petroleum, all of the other things went out. And it's the same with every facet of our government, from big pharma to our education system. They have infiltrated every single part of the American culture, community. And now when we think about how we're going to fix this, it's going to take decades to fix what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have messed up. And everyone's like, oh, well, you guys are so fear mongers. You keep talking about us going to war. Well, that should be you should pay attention to that. That's telling you that the American people are fed up. And at some point, there will be an event that breaks the camel's back, because there always is. People are fearful right now because of what they did to all the Jan 6. So you don't see them out there the way the left is protected. They can go out there and put bugs in the DNC goers' food and knock over the gates at the DNC and have all the abortions they want. But the moment that a Republican or a conservative or someone that doesn't agree with the left ideology does that, then we are their suspects. We are the aggressor. But it's going to come, and a lot of people see it. Anybody that has any type of intuition or prophetic dreams, or they're all having the same dreams. All of us are. We all feel the same. The depression, the anxiety, it will come to a boiling point, and then we, as the American people, will have to decide whether or not we're willing to sacrifice our lives to deal out their consequences.
I think a really important point that Dan brought up earlier is the fact with the border, and the biggest deception that I see there is that we're supposed to support the world as we are being dragged down and destroyed ourselves. It's sort of like, when you get on an airplane, how does anybody think that you're going to be, they always say, put your own mask on before you can help anybody else. We cannot help anyone else as this nation falls to the ground due to economic warfare, information warfare, and that sort of thing. If we are not strong, we will go down, and the world will go down with us. We have got to strengthen ourselves in order to be any help to anyone else. Right now, United States of America is limping along. We're limping along during to capture of many agencies. There is no law here that's being upheld. It's being systematically destroyed, and they're putting things in place legally, just like that Benson quote there. They have literally put things on the books that give them no ability to question anything. So they're making it illegal even to question, the elections, to even make sure it's certified, or even know what certification means, because certification in the state of Michigan does not mean accurate. It has no meaning when you look at the actual laws in the trail.
Amen.
So
I agree 100%. Miss Donna, I love you, but I got to go. I'm getting ready to leave to head to Virginia for that Children Health Defense Conference. So I did get my suit. I will send you guys pictures.
I
have
want
to
to see
say
your
I look
suit.
pretty damn snazzy.
Did you go to any of the ones that I sent you?
The ones you sent me online, but then I realized I had no idea of what size I was, so I ended up going to Dillard's, and then I found some at Macy's. So I found
Oh, there
this
you go.
jacket that I loved, but there's like 50 different shades of black these days, wouldn't you know? So, but I love you guys all, and I will talk to you guys soon, and I will upload some
safe.
videos from the
Be
conference.
Love
You guys
ya.
have a good
Love
Be
day.
you
safe.
too. Thanks, Christina.
Have a good day. Bye.
You too. Bye. Casey and Dan, is there any are there any last words or anything you want to talk about?
I'm just being nice, letting Casey go.
I'm being nice. Let you go. I'm just working on some public records requests right now. I have some. We had basically in this area there was a fire at an Army surplus store that was run by a guy named Cornell Razor, and he's running for state representative, if I remember correctly. I just did an interview with him recently, and so this arsonist, this alleged arsonist, Jennifer Meyer, I just found a thread the other day, and I have over 100 emails through a certain entity, and so I'm going to review those emails today. And basically, she was found to be, so far, mentally incompetent to stand trial, and so within the next couple of months, they're going to evaluate her, the Department of Health and Welfare, and then essentially they will deem if she needs to be extend the mental health evaluation or continue with the trial. So I'm hoping to find something in these emails or show the public that this person is relatively competent. You can see that in these emails. They're conducting business and they don't seem to be crazy. So anyways, that's kind of what I'm working on. And then I'm also working on this Capital for a Day event. I'll be in post-production all day making videos. So that's what I'm working on. Pretty exciting.
Awesome. So Dan.
Nice. Well, I could happily say that before she got sick, Hollis finished recording her first album ever, her first actual full 17-track album, which is so cool.
17, my favorite number.
See that? It's meant to be.
There you
I
go.
know why. But it's so cool because she's completely done it all on her own and escaped the evils of the music industry. So that's cool. We're planning a whole big thing with that, just to put her back out there and offering an alternative to people in that world. And then also September 8th, she's launching her show on the network, Holistics, which is going to be awesome. And that next day, I'm launching my show 5 nights a week. God help us all. The Dan Smeriglio show. And the last name is terrible, but I just sit here and wonder, Smeriglio. Yeah, I look like a fat leprechaun, but I'm half Irish and Italian. And I just want to know, when are they going to pander to me, the Italian? When have we had an Italian president? And when have they spoken about my ancestors getting herded like cattle in Ellis Island and taking our name and giving us nothing and throwing us in the rock quarries and coal mines? Nobody cares about the guinea. I'm just saying.
You can just see Dan's hands flailing. He's not.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right now.
That's right. I'm furious. So, I'm just saying, nobody cares about the Italians, but I digress. But so we got a lot of stuff going on. We have so much kicking off with the network, and really for the next month and like a week or so before Reawaken, we're going to be doing so much work on the network and also getting Hollis out there and the music stuff. And it's just, there's so much happening and it's really cool. So, we're involved in a lot of stuff. Casey, bring down those evil bastards. Donna, keep kicking ass and doing what you do. And, that's it. I'm going to shut up because I hijacked enough time. And Casey is forever to blame when he calls me out and wants me to speak. Just remember that. So Casey is the one to blame when you wonder why Dan talks too much. And that's it.
I love getting on here as friends because you get to know people well enough. You can start throwing shade a little bit here and there, and that's actually a lot of fun. I'm gonna forever think about you as a little Italian leprechaun. I think that's absolutely.
Thank you. And I like that you said little too, because I'm not fat. I'm bloated. I haven't got my menstruation cycle yet. I've been waiting 40 years. I identify as a skinny female that's just waiting for her period. So I'm bloated. Thank you. But
that's so fun. I got to tell you, so with my mom dying on Wednesday this week, I got to tell you, I decided I was a little sad Wednesday until a friend called, and we started laughing so hard at the absurdity of taking care of two aged parents and what you go through, that literally it became, my sadness came into hysterics. And I'm like, I'm going to do a comedy routine on this. I really am, because nobody would believe how crazy it gets when you have two older parents who are either having dementia or other things. And in retrospect, it's hilarious. It's kind of hilarious because it's sad, but the absurdities that happen, like they arranged a heist and that sort of thing. I mean, they get like irrational, and all of a sudden you have these irrational things that you're dealing with, and you're like, this is like when you first become a mother and you look at your kids and you never imagine having to say, don't touch that part of the dog. And that sort of thing. You know, they get to be older and they do these crazy things, and it's like, what are you doing? You know, and that sort of thing. But it's good to laugh about life and in all circumstances, and realize that all things, you know, come from the hand of God, and he's just given us more things to, you know, to learn from, and that sort of thing. And we have to see it as such. And so it is interesting. So yes, my little Irish Italian friend, and
right there with you, Donna. And honestly, you know, I'm praying for you, and I'm sorry for your loss. And you know, I just went through it myself. You know,
I know you did. I was thinking about you too, and I'm sorry about, you know, the loss of your mom. It's an interesting thing to go to. I'm just gonna say that right there, you know. And life is different on that day, and that's, you know, that's what it is. It's different, but still, you know, we know that the one thing that's constant in life, it's change. And you know, we have to be willing to accept the change and take what God intended for us to learn, and then go out and use those things to help other people. And
amen.
And so you just take everything that comes from the hand of God, both good and bad, and you learn from it and move on. So don't forget, but you know, you move on. So that's great. Well, guys, I'm going to go to a quick break here, and I'll be right on with Jalise Middleton and Isaac Thomas. We're going to go into the J6ers and the nonsense going on in our jails, our prisons, the gulag, and all that. So I have gotten a more honed sense of justice that needs to be done there. And you know, with talking about the legislature and the fake laws that they're writing, you know, screw all of them. They have all committed treason, all of them, because they put these laws in place. They refuse to step up and do the right thing. All of them. And I don't care if you're Marjorie Taylor Greene or whoever, no one has stepped up to do the right thing by these people. And so by that, they're all guilty. So, and with that said, love you guys. And I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. And I'll be back with the third hour of Brandenburg News Network with Jalise and Isaac. Be right back. Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the third hour of Brandenburg News Network this morning, and it is the 30th day of August 2024. Welcome to our show. We're going to move right into this and welcome in Jalise Middleton and Isaac Thomas. How you guys doing? Oh, sound is gone. No sound again. So here we go. Isaac, come on here. I'm not seeing there, buddy. A little bit of technical difficulties because, of course, they want to shut up the J6ers because that would absolutely give them all heartburn. So, Hi, Isaac. How are you? You're muted right now. Can you unmute? I still can't hear you. Let's give it a few minutes here, and Jalise will come on, and we'll see what's going on here. So until we get this thing figured out here, let's see. I'm going to give him a couple seconds here to get the technical difficulties figured out. We may have to do by some phone calls again, but yeah, this has been a real interesting week. Some of the things that I'm finding out there all over the place, and Casey even had a video here that he wanted to play, so maybe I'll just put that up there right now a minute while we're getting things figured out. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Hello everyone, Casey Whalen here, reporting for the Inland NW Report, Idaho Tribune, and Readout News. We're here today with investigative journalist George Webb, and he happened to be in North Idaho. We wanted to have a chat with him and find out a little bit about his background. Obviously, he's been heavily censored over the years, and so thank you for being here today, George. Appreciate it.
Casey, it's from one censored guy to another. you know how it feels. So YouTube wiped me out 2020, 4,000 videos, no notice whatsoever. You know, we've all been through it. Went with another citizen journalism school in Michigan, 23 deplatforming. So we're got scar tissue on our back. So it's great to be with somebody else with as much scar tissue as me.
I don't have as much as you do, but I appreciate it, the sentiment. And so I just want to talk. You know, some people may be familiar with you, and some others obviously are not. Tell people a little bit about who is George Webb and what's your background? How did you get into becoming an investigative journalist?
Very accidentally. I was in high tech for 35 years, worked for IBM, HP, worked for Sun Microsystems a long time. But one of the companies we bought was a guy who was supposed to write antivirus software for us at McAfee. We're network associates. And he ended up writing backdoors for the CIA. He ended up taking a privacy program called PGP and writing a backdoor for the CIA on BlackBerries. And I'm like, wow, that's really bad because we hired you to do something else. Well, 16 years later, when the DNC was hacked, it was leaked. And it was Dimitri who was the hero coming in and saying the DNC's been hacked. It was a big lie. And that's when you have your kind of red pill moment. You go, wait a minute, all this MSM is a lie.
What year was that?
It was 2016. Yeah.
There you go. So I see that Jalise is back, and I'm going to assume that I can hear you. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yay! Okay. Where's Isaac?
I don't know. He was there, and then he disappeared. So having a few technical difficulties today, but that's okay. So,
yes. Apparently the feds, when they burn up the last computer, they did it very successfully. So we're on it.
Did your computer actually burn up?
No, I mean, it's functioning, but I have no volume anymore in it.
Oh,
I
man.
literally watched it happen on my end. Yeah, gotta love them. So like I just shared with a friend, well, you know what? No one's going to hear them in hell screaming either. So
there you go. There you go. I see Isaac's trying to come on here. There we go. Let's see if we can add him.
All right.
Yay!
Hey, Isaac, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
Good. We're getting a little bit of feedback.
If you want, I can go grab my headphones real quick. Would that be? That'd be
Yeah,
good. Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good option.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Okay, I'm going to just mute him a minute so we don't have the feedback. So what's happening with Jalise this morning?
Not a whole lot. Had a couple days break there, so kind of excited to talk to Isaac. I hope we're able to get him on. Isaac kind of has a very, very unique perspective on the whole situation. Isaac was raised in foster care, and that's part of his story of why they have had a special interest in him. He's already been to the DC Gulag for 6 or 7 months. He lived on our property for a short time because through all this, they guaranteed that he went homeless. And so he's got a really amazing story through all this. I'm really excited for him to share it. Hopefully he gets to do that today. But anyway, we will just kind of wait and see how he does. But in the meantime, we have had a little bit of news in our own case. The 1512 was dropped, and we're really excited about that. That's going to require some new court work to happen. So I believe there's no guarantee yet, but they're looking to possibly delay our sentencing as late as November 1st. As you can imagine, they sure want to get that in there before November 5th. So anyway, I'll continue to take all the prayers I can get my hands on.
What's the 1512 or the 1215? What is that?
Okay, that's a great question. So the 18 USC 1512 was a paper shredding charge from Enron. Back in 1984, when Enron, defrauded their investors and stole all their pensions, they were shredding documents like little beavers. And so the federal government made that a 20-year felony if you're caught with it. Well, as trying to attack the January 6th defendants in every way possible, they molested that law to make it say that the 350 of the January 6th defendants carried paper shredders in their pocket. We tease about that. That's not the case, but and were there shredding papers. What they did is that was a law put in place to protect evidence. Okay. But they molested it to mean that it was there to protect Congress or anybody that would need a Secret Service. Okay. So then they come after the January 6th defendants with it. Well, the Supreme Court got hold of that through the Fisher challenge and A.J. Fisher, which is a January 6th defendant, and they overturned it. They said it is unconstitutional to do that. But they're still finding ways to keep those charges on some January 6th defendants. They're also not removing the charges for a lot of them. So it's still a very sketchy situation, but it really does show the tyranny, the defectiveness, the ineptability of the DOJ, that all they care about is hurting people that are in opposition to them. That's all they care about. So, Isaac, I see you're back on.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Perfect. Yeah. Yay.
Cool.
Cool.
Introduce yourself,
Welcome.
Devlin. I was just talking about the 18 USC 1512, but you weren't charged with that, were you?
Yes. Yep, I was.
Oh, you were.
So I got pretty much every single charge that they get us with. So
they give special love to you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, maybe. Well, hi, Donna. It's good to meet you. I'm very sad that you're not sitting in the governor's mansion right now. That's unfortunate. But you know what? We're gonna try to get you in there maybe next time.
I tell you what, they would have opened up a major can of whoop ass with me, because this whole thing, watching you guys sit down there, in the J6ers in the gulag, when this was clearly a federal setup. There's information that I expect is going to be coming out shortly on the pipe bombers, or the pipe bombs that were there, that is going to tear this entire house right down. And this broke yesterday. We're waiting to see exactly what's going to come out. But there's pipe bomb evidence that is basically going to tear down many members of Congress, from what I hear, as well as, vindicate what's been done to the J6ers. And I wouldn't stand for it. If I was a politician, I don't care if anybody ever voted for me again. You got to do the right thing with what's in front of you, period.
That's absolutely right. This evidence, the video evidence, has actually been out for quite some time. It was one of the people that discovered it sat around and talked to police at their vehicle. If it were a legitimate pipe bomb, why did they not quarantine off the area? You see passersby even after it was found, just strolling along. You see a train going by in the background. Like, it was all a fraud anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So,
going back to the 1512 charge, I want to give a an unpopular opinion that I've shared previously, and that would be that I don't believe the Supreme Court decision did nearly enough to help the J6ers. I believe that they really tried to play both hot and cold on the topic, where they released an opinion that was kind of favorable to us, but the problem is that the night that this opinion was released overturning 1512, these judges were going onto live TV and proclaiming that they are going to sentence us to the same amount of time anyways. It's against federal law for these judges who are overseeing active cases to go on TV and talk about these cases. So they did that, and then they're still holding their word. They are sentencing people to the same amount of time, if not more, whether they have the 1512 or not. And so, the Supreme Court really needs to step in, and they need to free these hostages until they can all have a fair trial. And that's what I've called to happen, is these people need to be let out, and they need to be allowed to have a chance to have a fair trial. Hopefully when we get President Trump in there, we'll be able to just get everything tossed out altogether. But until then, these people need to be allowed to have to live their life. They're being tortured right now. Hundreds of people are being tortured in some of the worst ways that we've seen. I mean, solitary confinement for more time than what we did to the people who were supposedly responsible for 9/11. They tortured them, and they're doing the same thing to these people. And unless we wake up and we do something now, I continue to stress to people that it's not going to be long before they come and knock on your door to round you and your family up as well.
What kind of tortures have you seen and that you know of are existing in this? Because our prison system is a disaster. It's for profit, and they are absolutely just destroying people.
Yeah, and that's just on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's for regular cases. They're torturing people. Now imagine going in there with a bunch of leftists who hate your guts, and they know why you're there as a J6er. So it's definitely been pretty hard. But to go into it, Jalise will tell you, I got to have 7 months of experience, personal experience in the DC Gulag is what they call it. It's a jail down there in DC. They have a pod there where they hold all of the January 6th defendants. There's normally between 40 to 60 J6ers all kept in one pod. And so basically, just to give you a little bit of where it started at, after being charged, I lost everything. As many of us do, we lose our houses, our jobs. It's not long before the eviction notice gets put on our door, and everything is gone. And that happened to me. And Jalise and Mark were amazing patriots, and they opened up their home for me in Texas while I got on my feet. And because of that, the government decided to revoke my bond. So I flew from Jalise's farm down to DC, my first time getting to fly, and my bond was revoked. So the last 7 months, I spent that time there. 4 of those 7 months were spent in the basement in what they call the shoe. The shoe is, or the hole is another word for it, is where they keep people that are accused of, stabbing people in the jail, or, all sorts of different crimes that they commit while they're incarcerated. They get sent down to this, this secure pod. And I spent time with myself and Jake Lang, who's been in there for 3.5 years without a trial, and Ryan Samsel and multiple other J6ers that were put down in the hole, taken from the regular pod and placed into the shoe. I do believe that was because of me being outspoken and doing interviews during my time in the jail. And the shoe, the food had bugs in them, hairs, bugs. They actually had, the entire kitchen is ran by Muslim staff. And so when they serve the J6 pod, they know exactly who we are. They know, we're the Christian, right, white nationalists that they like to call us. And so, of course, they mess with our food a lot. But in the shoe, it's just a lot worse. You couldn't really eat the food there because of how bad it was. We was locked in our cell, in a cell just alone by myself, with, no one around, for 23 out of 24 hours of the day. And this was for 4 months straight. And so, and then the other 3 of the months were spent on the actual pod. And I'll tell you what, if you don't have God with you, you won't make it through that. I mean, I've seen the people in there, they've literally going crazy. And it's so bad to the point that, this is kind of, graphic, but they will literally go so insane in there that they'll draw pictures of people on the wall with their feces. And so that's how crazy these people are going in there, because they're locked in there for hours and hours, months at a time. And I know that's graphic, but it's just, it needs to paint the picture of what's really happening in the basement of that jail, and in jails all across the country where they're holding J6ers. And so, like you said, Donna, it's been an issue way before this, but I think that God has used the January 6th movement not only to awaken America to the political side, but also, to the prison system, and how that's, how that works, and how that's just one big scam in itself. During my time there at DC, I met a lot of people in there for federal charges, for gun charges. And this was not them hurting anyone. This is just them carrying a gun in their car, being pulled over and having a weapon in their car, and it just not being, fully registered or whatever. And I think to myself, you can't even drive down the street these days without getting mugged or robbed. And these people are sitting in jail facing 20 years for basic gun charges. So, I mean, the system has been weaponized all around, not just against the J6ers. And we're seeing them stuff these people away, silence them, muzzle them, and then just let them rot in a cell. And it's inhumane. It's not what this country stands for. And we're supposed.
Had a little bit of a glitch there. Let's just wait. He'll come back on. This is what they do to try to silence it. All of a sudden, you'll see the video go out on us. And we've seen this how many times, Jalise? It happens all the time.
All the time.
All
and
the
the
time.
January 6th defendants are used to it. They silence us wherever we go. If we get on X space, the space will start glitching. It'll collapse. They do not want our voice heard, which is why at all costs we have to continue speaking out. And Isaac has been amazing in that he has already firsthand experienced the tyranny and devastation of being put in that DC gulag, and yet he's still come out swinging. And he's sitting over, y'all. That was pre-trial. So Isaac is still waiting on his trial. And so everything that you hear him say, the government will then turn around and use against him in that trial. And they will use that as an opportunity to increase his sentencing structure because he would not go silent. Not because of the charges at hand, but because he would not go silent. And that's exactly what Mark and I face also. But we, like Isaac is like us, we are all born again believers. We believe God is on the throne. We believe that he has called us to this, that we've been equipped for this. We were made for such a time as this. And because of that, we have decided that it is worth our life. We know that our life is eternal with the Lord. And not all the January 6th defendants have that gifting. And they need as much time here on this earth to get to know our Savior. So we have decided we're standing in the gap at all costs. And that is exactly what Isaac has done. And I can tell you a little bit of Isaac's story that makes it so phenomenal what he's doing. Guys, he was raised institutionalized from like 4 years old on up. Raised institutionalized in foster care, in placement homes. There he is again. And so to stay in this battle knowing, oh, you're not hearing us?
We can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he can. But being raised institutionalized and knowing that his future could contain that again, that just makes him an outstanding warrior for this whole situation. And, you know, he is a very big advocate on the child trafficking. He himself was trafficked. And so he believes that is what caught the attention of the federal government, is because he wouldn't go silent once he emancipated himself. And then at 18 years old, he was one of our youngest January 6th defendants. He went to the Capitol, and that's when they come after him and charged him. So he's had a long, long battle. Right now, Isaac is only 21 years old. So there he is. Still
no sound here.
We might have to call him on the phone.
I'm gonna just call you a second, Isaac, and that'll fix this whole problem. Hang on just a minute. Sometimes we have to do this. Just leave your video on, and we'll call and see if this works a minute. There's a will, there's a way, you know?
Yep.
And we punt every time because, you know, they can't kill the American spirit. Guess what? We're here to stay.
Did that fix it? Can you guys hear me?
Oh, there you go. Yay.
No?
Awesome. Perfect. Yes. We're in business again. So
can you hear us? He still can't.
Still can't. Okay.
How do you know you're hovering over the target?
Yeah, this is exactly how. I'm just going to call them. We're going to step around some of the technical difficulties that they can't control. So that's okay. All right. Hello. Okay. So everybody can hear you now. You're on. We'll just do it by phone. We do this occasionally because, quite honestly, we put the truth out, and they don't want the truth out, and so they will interrupt the feed if they want to silence somebody. It's been you're not the only computer that was fried, Jalise. I've had several other guests who have literally, while they were online, had like a fan go absolutely crazy and it would burn their computer out. I've had several people that have had that happen to them because if they can get into your computer, they can hack it.
Yep.
So, yeah. So there you go. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to put your face on there, and we can do it by phone. Oh, it's working. Hold on. All right, let me get you off this one here. There you go. Let's see if that works. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Okay, we're going to just take you off the video. Just disconnect from the video. Here, I'm just going to disconnect the video, and we'll just do it by phone, and that's okay. So no worries. I think it's important to get it out here. You know, sometimes that's what we do. We just kind of find another way around it, and you can't get too excited. My dad used to always say, don't get too excited, you know. We're just going to do this by phone, Isaac. So if you can kill the, I'm going to kick you from the studio. Yes.
I'm going to call you from the house phone so we don't get all this stuff, okay? All this background noise. Is that okay?
Oh, it's off now. I mean, right now I moved you out of the studio. So
I still want to make sure because my phone's at 1%. So I'm gonna call you right back, okay?
Okay, no worries.
Your phone number. You're gonna see the phone ring as soon as I hang up.
No worries. We'll make it work.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. So
isn't it funny that we're trying to go back in technology to stay afloat?
Yeah, it really is. So. Well, it's just extraordinary. I mean, he's a pretty young guy to have to face these charges and what he went through. I mean, what a story of overcoming. I mean, I think all of this comes, you go through all these things and it's a story of overcoming. And that's one of the things that God talks about is that we are in fact overcomers. Okay, how's that?
Right. That should be all we have to do now. I'm sorry about that.
No worries. It happens, and we just step around the difficulties and just continue on.
Yep.
I can't get. My dad always said, "Can't get too excited. You just got to keep going."
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyhow, where do you guys want to go with this?
I'll leave it up to Jalise.
Well, I was just talking about you. And your time in the CPS custody, and dealing with a life of being institutionalized, and then still staying in the battle and facing all of this, and it's still not wavering in your spirit.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Julie. And that's one thing I've noticed, Donna, is that the people within this movement, especially the ones that they seem to come after the most, I just can't tell you the amount of people like Jalise and Mark that I've met that are just filled with the Spirit of God and His anointing, and the amount of perseverance, and not only that, but the stories that they have. Each of these people have just had some really amazing stories that brought them into the situation to where we know that this is not just by coincidence, that each of us were made specifically for this time, and we were specifically molded by God to be able to withstand this type of attack in these end times. And so, it talks a lot in the Bible how when people that have God, God will radiate through them. And so I've noticed going across the different, speaking events and churches and meeting people, I can see and feel the presence of God with them, and vice versa. I've noticed that my discernment when it comes to, to others, it's to the bad people, it's really good. So, I think Jalise hits a good point that these people are just so full of courage and fight, and just the amount of positive energy that surrounds them is really just, it's awesome to see God bring so many people together with this.
I am so proud of the January 6th defendants. I never have enough words to say. They've truly become my family. It doesn't matter if I know them personally or not. The minute I hear that they're a January 6th defendant, that they are under the persecution of the government, and they're my people. And it is truly because I'm seeing the heart of man, that everyone that went there that day laid something down to go. Okay. Every person, they laid something down to go. They were planning to do something else, and they got redirected, and they either laid down money for plane tickets or their vacation time for their job. They all went because they stood for what is right. And, you talk to the different January 6th defendants, they all have different stories on why they went. Some were over COVID, some were over the mask, some were over the abortion issue, some were over the stolen election, but they all went to stand for what was right. And for that, now we're all being attacked and persecuted for that very thing. And civil rights are being torn down. In your previous segment, Donna, I heard y'all talking about, all these laws that they're trying to pass. Well, I don't know if I've ever shared it on here, but at the end of our trial, the day before our trial ended, the DOJ brought all their bigwigs into the courtroom to piece by piece in little tiny segments try to break down the constitutional definition of the laws that we were being accused of breaking. In other words, they were trying to get the judge to gray the area that would create a guilty verdict, okay? To just expand on it a little bit. And if they're doing that with 1,500 cases of January 6th defendants, how much will they successfully annihilate our Constitution and our laws simply by gray interpretation?
Well, that's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. So in Michigan, because we've been studying this quite seriously, we're finding all sorts of things and how they actually wrote the laws in order to give themselves loopholes to do whatever they want. There is no accuracy. There is no accuracy that's required with that word certification. We don't even, certification just means stamping it and sending it on, but that doesn't mean it's accurate. And they have absolutely torn down the original intention of the law in order for their own self-gain. And I am going to say right now that what Benson did in that video that I played earlier was absolute. There's absolute intention. And when you look at her smugness, when she's cutting this video, the absolute smugness of her face as she's basically threatening anyone in the election, which is where everything starts, with being that we're coming after you. Watch this.
If someone were to violate the law and not certify the election at the local level, we will come for you. So any local certifier thinking of skirting the law and not certifying the vote, don't even think about it, because we'll get
So it's absolute threat, it's coercion, it's taking away people's ability to, in fact, even ask questions. It's like, sit down and shut up is what she's saying.
Which is what they want, because they've already stolen the election again. We're just waiting to see if their efforts are successful. You know, I'd mentioned before that I'm trying to work with James O'Keefe a little bit on researching Act Blue. And I'm telling you, I dug into that last night. I was so mad. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to go on, because every single person's name I researched, to about 98% were fraudulent funneled money, that you can see the patterns, that you know without even going to their home yet that they're fraudulent.
And you're going to find that Jocelyn Benson, Dana Nessel, and Gretchen Whitmer all had funds coming from Act Blue.
Oh, all of them have, yeah. Mm-hmm. They're all receiving the funds. Now, whether they know that they're fraudulently taken in, they may or may not know. I mean, I don't have evidence of that. You know, it's just like
it doesn't matter. You know, ignorance isn't an excuse.
Right. Yeah, they definitely needs an investigation. I'm as curious now about Win Red as I am Act Blue. I want to dig into that. Is there fraudulent funds going in there?
There are fraudulent funds going in there, because I had my credit card hacked, my personal one. They thought it was a campaign credit card, and I started getting $500 to $2,000 donations to campaigns that I had never, I didn't even hear of before. And then you've got the smurfing going on and everything else. They're all involved in this. All of them are involved in this. Tudor Dixon had a whole ton of $5 donations coming from Arizona. And all of this has to be looked into. And
yes, you know,
unfortunately, there's not enough people questioning it. And when they're told to sit down and shut up, like she just told everybody to do, she just told everybody, sit down and shut up. You don't have the right to question. You question our elections and you don't certify, we're coming for you. That's what she said. That is absolutely. Yep, that's what she said.
And that's coming from people that don't even know the Constitution, that you have a right. Number one, people are mistaken in thinking that the federal government is over the states. They are not. The states are over the government. So that is the first deception that we're buying that's even causing this confusion. The states have every legal right and the moral responsibility to question the election, and it actually should happen on every election. It really should. There should be an entire process, and there may be, who knows? I honestly, I'm not the expert to ask. There should be an entire process within each state to second check what they're seeing as their results. It should be, and there should be an accountability of what the government is reporting versus what they gave. But you know, nobody's going to want that if they're cheating.
Yes, they're trying to hide it. So,
yes.
Absolutely.
So you're in Michigan.
I'm going to stop. What's that?
You're in Michigan, and so is Isaac. And so y'all both have, you know, very, very intense viewpoints in that area. And I'm just curious to hear from Isaac if, you know, if he's familiar with you and what he's seeing in Michigan that you report on regularly.
Well, Flint, we've gone to the Flint water crisis as well as Benton Harbor, and that was absolutely negligence beyond all belief. And the dam that burst, and that's right straight on Dana Nessel.
Yeah, and when it comes to the Flint water crisis, of course, we know, I believe it was Rick Snyder who was the governor during that time. And of course, you know, they basically, all of the corrupt judges in the state have made sure that the prosecutors are not allowed to to charge him. They're giving him immunity. So, it's there's a lot of crooked stuff that goes on, and up to up until with the Flint water crisis is a good example of how these politicians are willing to literally poison and kill people to obtain money and power. And I think that the water crisis and the dam and that are very good examples of that. And so, we've seen Proposal 3 pass, which was a huge issue. That this law allows abortions up and even beyond the point of birth, which is absolutely disgusting. But I want to go into something that is very important and relevant, but may cause a little tension, and that is that my favorite president, President Trump, decided to endorse a rhino, Tudor Dixon, for governor. And we've seen that happen time and time again with the Senate candidate Mike Rogers and with all of these other people. President Trump has been given some very, very bad advice as far as his endorsements go. And especially for here in Michigan, he has endorsed rhino after rhino after rhino. And had he endorsed the real conservative candidate, Donna, then we could have had a chance to get her into office. Or he could have even endorsed the other January 6th defendant, Ryan Kelly. But he didn't endorse him either. He endorsed the biggest rhino of them all, and she still ended up losing. And so mainly because a lot of Trump supporters knew who Tudor Dixon was. They weren't going to vote for her regardless of his endorsement or not. And so, that's a big part of it, too. We say that we want to change these laws. We say that we want to save the J6ers, that we want to save our individual states and our individual elections. But part of the problem is we need people that have the amount of outreach that President Trump does to be able to promote these things. And what we really need is President Trump himself. He's, I think, the only one with the amount of influence that has the ability to be able to really get everyone on board. And that's what upsets me so much with this whole thing, is that we have the power as the citizens, to fix this problem with this entire establishment that has really taken over our country illegally. None of these people, half of the people in office right now, haven't even been duly elected. They've been elected by Chinese voting machines that, as Mike Lindell showed, can flip 100,000 votes in 5 seconds from Biden to Trump. So, we can complain about the problems that we all know about, but at the end of the day, until we can get President Trump really on board to help us with these things, nothing's going to happen. I personally wasn't a fan of President Trump promoting the early voting. I know that, their reasoning was, well, if the Democrats are going to cheat, then we might as well as cheat too.
And
So,
that's
it
wrong.
doesn't make any sense to me. We need to have paper ballots. We need to have only citizens voting, and we need to have one-day elections. It's that simple. There's so many different topics we could go into, but at the end of the day, all of these issues could be fixed if the people stood up. And the only way to have enough people stand up is to have President Trump, put that call out and point out individual issues. And so far, he's done that with a few things. When he called out, for example, he gave a statement on the rhino-led border bill that the House tried to pass. When he put his word out against it, MAGA stood up and stopped it. But we don't see him doing that for some of this, some of these things that we may consider smaller, things. But it's very important to have, for example, in a state like Michigan, with how important it is that we win Michigan in November. He should be endorsing these small things. He shouldn't be endorsing rhinos for governor. There should be a lot that could be done there to really help the grassroots and assist us in our efforts, because so far we've had people like us who have been trying really hard to get stuff done and to get the word out. But like you said, Donna, it's just not getting out there enough. And so that's what I would call on, is to have President Trump to start speaking up. He needs to be having rallies for the J6ers outside of the jails. I don't see why not. He should join Mickey Whithoff, Ashley's mother. He should join her down there at Freedom Corner in front of the D.C. jail. He should be outside the New York jail. He was just down there the other day for his trial, and he spent 30 minutes, saying how bad they're coming after him. I'm like, we'll get it, dude, but they're coming after us too. And so, he was 5 minutes away from the jail that Jake Lang has been held in for 3.5 years and has not had a trial. This is a 24-year-old man, 3.5 years with no trial, and President Trump was 5 minutes away. It could have stopped. And I'm just saying that there's small things that can be done to help us secure this November election. Laura Loomer has talked a lot about the issue with the endorsements and who he's getting his advice from and how the establishment has infiltrated his inner circle, specifically to make him, or persuade him to make these bad endorsements. So, I wanted to highlight that because I don't think we're going to get anything done that we can talk about unless we have President Trump really, right there with us and promoting this stuff.
The rightful president of the United States. I would fight for him as I would for any American who is deprived of their rights by an unlawful, rigged process. And I think that we need to stand in that. I'm going to step away for just a minute, and if you guys can continue talking on here, and then I'll be back in a little while, okay? And I really appreciate everything you have to say. We need to hear from you, in your words, Isaac, your perspective on all of this, because you were there. And the greatest amount of detail as you can put into this is going to be really important, and also how God got you through this. And I'll be right back.
Excellent. So Isaac, I got a question as far as, we got feedback now. I got a question as far as, you mentioned this about Trump. I've seen the same thing, that he's endorsing rhinos and that he should be supporting J6ers. My argument to other January 6th defendants have been that even within the conservative and Republican community, they're all deceived on January 6th thanks to the lying media. So if he were to strongly endorse the January 6th defendants and they're releasing them during his campaign, do you not think that would significantly harm his election potential?
Well, here's the thing. I think that January 6th has the potential to do it could go either really good or really bad, and it's all about how he handles it. I believe personally the way President Trump needs to handle this is every single rally, he needs to be highlighting, number one, the 4 innocent and unarmed protesters that were murdered that day. That is a very big talking point that he can use to gaslight these people, and he needs to be using it. I know he's done it maybe once or twice, but he should be really highlighting how these people murdered his supporters. They literally murdered people right there in front of thousands of people, and they got promoted. These officers got promoted, and you've seen the hatred in Lila Morris as she brung that baton up and down, the amount of evil that someone has to have in them to be able to do that, to beat somebody like Roseanne who's just unconscious and to continue to do this to her. So yeah, I think if President Trump highlighted that stuff very well, then and did it in a very careful way to make it clear that if we were this violent crowd that they say, I do believe it would hurt his campaign. And right now, he's the only one who can help us. We've done the majority of the work. We've got the frame of the house set in place between me and you and all these different people, these advocates that me and you've met, that have been putting the word out, the documentaries, the videos, the evidence, everything else. But if he started to add on top of that and to promote these videos and to show the truth, as it currently stands, if he just brought it, I think it's actually hurting him to just say what he said, which is, I'm going to, pardon the J6 hostages and, they've been treated badly. That's really all he said so far. And then I think he's brought up Ashley Babbitt maybe once, maybe twice at the most. Hasn't brought up any of the other people killed. But imagine if, he started to highlight that stuff. If he started to really go into, what really happened on January 6th. By him just saying he supports us, well, then people assume that he's supporting the same narrative that is currently out there, which is that this is a violent thing. But if he actually starts to give the details on what really happened, then yeah, I think it would gain a lot of support. And not only that, I think it would also help him get some of the Democrat or the independent voters, specifically the people who have been protesting. Listen, I understand that there's, with the Black Lives Matter movement, there's some very, very violent people that need to be, of course, need to be charged and dealt with. But there's a lot of people that went out there just because they genuinely believed what the media was selling them. They genuinely believed that this person was, just like we genuinely believe the election was stolen. A lot of the people that went and protested, for many different reasons. There's protests for Bernie Sanders when people thought that on January 6th, people thought they took, they screwed Bernie Sanders over out of the nomination. And so there's a lot of people who have been protesting throughout the country. We've seen it at the pro-life rallies. We've seen it at a couple of the Black Lives Matter rallies. I think the majority of them got out of hand and probably should have been, I think Antifa played a big part in that. But we've seen police brutality against peaceful protesters all over this country. And I don't really care if people don't agree with me or don't like me. I support our everyday men and women that go out there and protect our communities. But just as there's bad teachers and firefighters and doctors and lawyers, there's bad police officers too. And the fact is that the crowd stood there peacefully and they murdered 4 people that day. We've seen this happen before. So he may even have the ability to win over some of the protesters who are not these brainwashed Antifa people, but people that just genuinely have tried to speak up about what they see in their country, or that even maybe some of the anti-immigration protests where it's not all Trump supporters. There could be other people there who maybe don't even like Trump, but have had their family killed by an illegal immigrant, right? Those people, he would be able to vie over, I believe, if he shared the truth about what happened. And the truth is they attacked a peaceful crowd, and that was on the police. It was. The men and women that we have stood up for in our movement, for the last decade, as the left has just totally tried to destroy them and defund them, and all these things. Those very same people that we stood up for, they murdered 4 protesters. And again, not every police officer is bad. I think there's many great people out there that really are there to serve their communities, and they've risked their lives, and I'm very grateful for them. But we have to understand the establishment has invaded every aspect of our life. In the colleges, where all these judges and lawyers go, all the judges that are sentencing these J6ers to 20 years for standing outside that day, these judges all went to Harvard and all these indoctrination camps. And so again, they've infiltrated the lawyers, the judges. They've infiltrated our professors at the colleges. They've infiltrated the police officers to where a lot of the people at the top of the chain are very Democrat. Our sheriff down here, Sheriff Swanson, everyone thought he was a Republican, and he just endorsed Joe Biden, and then ended up endorsing Kamala after Joe dropped out. And so, that's our sheriff here in Genesee County endorsing these pedophiles. So again, I think it would be very, very helpful to him to just simply share with people what happened, how it happened, why it happened, and not to just put a blanket thing over it and that all police are bad and that, and you can't put a blanket statement on these things. Not all the J6ers are bad people. There is a couple of people that went overboard that day. Do I believe they should be in jail? No, because at the end of the day, the police attacked us first. But it's the same thing with some of these other situations that we've seen. And unless I think we have unless the people can see the clear-cut facts, it's one thing to scroll through Facebook and see a couple of posts, or to go on the news and see what, of course, all the terrible stuff they say on there. It's another thing to hear who these people really are. And also, he should have in the J6ers up there. Jalise and Mark, why have you guys not been brought up on President Trump's stage when he's down there speaking in Texas? I did that at his rally as soon as I got out of jail, and we weren't brought up a single time there. I was pretty disappointed. It was my first rally since January 6th. And I don't say this because I don't like Trump. I actually say it because I do like Trump. And if you really care about somebody, then you're going to be willing to tell them what, you know, the hard truth as well, not just the things they want to hear. And the hard truth is that President Trump hasn't handled January 6th as well as he could have.
So, you know, I just gotta tell you, I feel like politics
donated like $1 million to her, but not a single other J6er has gotten any help as they're being evicted and losing everything. And
Can you hear me?
You know, go ahead, Jalise.
Oh, okay. So I just, you know, got to chunk in there, of course, that politics have always been a very ugly beast where, you know, you've got to do things in their proper timing. You know, so I'm like you, I've had some disappointment over Trump's handling of J6, but I also do feel like, you know, me and you both are strong believers that Trump isn't our savior, God is, and Jesus Christ is going to redeem this. I think about the prayer where, you know, in Psalm 91, where he is, or 23, sorry, where he is saying, you know, that I will prepare a table in the presence of your enemies. And I can assure you, Isaac, that day is coming with or without Trump. I feel like Trump is being used by the Lord. I don't feel like Trump's end all be all. I do not believe that it's going to require anything from Trump. If he does not obey the Lord, I fully believe the Lord will do this without him. But I do feel like he intends to use Trump, and I feel like Trump is hearing from him. So it's going to be interesting in the upcoming months to see what's playing out. I know this. I know.
The recommendation to Trump is to not only to open up your rallies with, you know, talking about the J6ers, but also begin to highlight prayer a little more. I know after his most recent assassination attempt, he opened up a little bit more about his faith. But he needs to really highlight that, I think, a lot more.
And that was prophesied. Isaac, are you familiar with Kim Clement?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Are you familiar with Kim Clement? He was a prophetic person back in 2014 that prophesied President Trump being elected for 3 terms and an attempted assassination, and him coming into office as a non-believer, but coming to Christ along the way. All of this has been prophesied, and I encourage everyone to look that up. That's very intriguing to me. But with that, I've got a question for you. So, you know, I touched on your past a little bit in the foster care system, and that, you know, you too have been born again, and the Lord's been a strength for you to get through all this. So we know a little bit about who you were before this, but what I want to know is, how has Christ carried you? Do you have a specific story from being in prison, or that you saw God do that in your mind there was no way that could have happened any other way?
Well, I can tell you this. So there's a couple of things that happened. And maybe people would just think I'm crazy again. I don't really care. When I think about it, you know, there's not a lot of competition in the world these days. So I don't care if people, you know, think I'm, you know, crazy or whatever. But basically, you know, first getting in there, the first person I stayed with was so when they put you in the jail, you get moved around a couple times to couple different pods, and then eventually you end up on the J6 pod. And the first inmate I came across was a guy who had been homeless on the streets and was in there for, you know, stealing and drugs. And the cell was like 90 degrees, and I remember it was just a really kind of miserable time. And I decided to start talking to this guy about God, and we had a really deep conversation, you know, about who God is, and you know, he wasn't like a firm believer. He kind of knew of God. He kind of believed in him, but he didn't really practice his faith. And so I got to really pray with him. And then I got moved to another cell, and this was a guy who was about my age, about 20, 21 years old. He was an illegal immigrant, and he was there for, apparently, I guess they said that he was in the street when somebody else got attacked or something like that. And they were accusing him of attacking someone in the street. And so, of course, I automatically assumed the worst. But as I got to talking with this guy, again, this is a guy my age, and I started talking to him about God, and sure enough, he began to open doors. And then I got put in with a third roommate, and there's actually a story on the Gateway Pundit about this third roommate. His name was Theodore, Teddy is what they call him. And I go in here, and he's this big old black guy, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting put in here with like a gangster pretty much. And this dude was a believer in God as well, but yet again, very similar situation, except for he had a little more faith, I think. And God, we began praying and using the word of God, and so each cellmate that I went in with, God gave me the opportunity to minister. And then when me and Jake were put down in the cell, me and Jake began having Bible studies in this pod. It's literally full of people that were there's people there for rape and stabbing people while they're in jail, mind you. And there was people down there that had been there for murder, from their charges on the outside as well. And so me and Jake, normally that pod is everyone has to carry, you have to have a shank on you to protect yourself and watch your back. But me and Jake get put down there, and we're running Bible study every night, and people are literally saying, we get out for like an hour. They're supposed to let us out for 3 hours a day. They normally don't give us our 3 hours. It's normally 23 and 1 is what they keep us on down there. But we were, for the amount of, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of trouble, and those people who got in fights and stuff here and there. But I mean, we had, when it was our turn to be let out for the hour, we go up to Jake's cell door if I was out for the night, or if Jake got let out of his cell for the night, we were on different tiers. And so we'd come up and have Bible study through the slot on our door where they would put our lunch trays through, the slot on our cell door. And so it was just nice watching God kind of use the J6ers to minister to people in the jail. I think that was big. And then
I got to interrupt for a second. That's something that I have pointed out to people all along is we are not self-surrendering. I think that's the most ridiculous statement. All of us still stand firm on truth. What this is a mission call, and we are literally reporting for duty. And that is exactly what you just pointed out, Isaac.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And then I think that the final and probably the best example of how God used the situation is, as you know, Jalise, once they put me in there, I think you remember they've tried 3 different times. And you remember I was showing you these motions, and you're just like, how crazy this. My attorneys, Trennis Evans, everyone was just looking at this, thinking, how crazy is this? They really want you to shut up. And it had nothing to do with why they wanted to revoke my bond as far as what they put in their paperwork. It was really just the fact that I wouldn't shut up. I kept being outspoken, just like all of us, and they really don't like that. And so, as we sat in there, it took 3 times. So it took 3 times for them to revoke my bond, and then it took 3 more times to finally get my bond granted. And most people, as most know, once you get put in jail, it's very hard for you to get out. There's a couple of different cases. It's very rare though. Normally, once you're put in or get your bond revoked, you're kind of screwed. I was charged later on, and I wasn't charged until January of 2023. 2 years after, so maybe that played a role. But there was also in the judge's decision for my bond, she noted that there wasn't. They weighed the amount of evidence, they weighed the seriousness of the charges, and the fact that I had no criminal history. All that was was factored in. But basically, we started this situation where I had no attorney, was trying to find another, a new attorney who was going to do a good job, was sitting here in solitary, honestly kind of miserable. But God had been speaking to me throughout my time in there quite a bit. And what I did is I forced myself every night. I would write the names of everyone I could think of down, like everyone that I've came across the way, and I told them I pray for them. I'd write them all down on one page. It wasn't neat or nothing. I just spread all their names out, and I think you and Mark were on there, and a bunch of other people, my little brothers, my dog. I just put everyone I could think of on this paper, and every night I'd pray, and then at the end of my prayer, I would always make sure I prayed for the judge as well, and prayed that God would break through the darkness, and that, how the Bible says, sometimes God will callous people's minds so that they end up doing what God wants them to do, whether they want to or not, pretty much. And so I was basically asking God, I know this judge doesn't want to let me out, but can you please just do something to where, it's gonna happen. And every single night I forced myself to get up and to jump around. Even on the nights I felt like bawling my eyes out, I'd force myself to get up and jump up and down and all around my cell and praise God. And I just imagined the walls falling down, just like, how you'd walk around, how we heard they walked around Jericho. That's kind of what I was doing to my room. I was just jumping around and praising God, and I would thank him for letting me out. And I believe that, honest to God, I do believe that my commitment to wherever, I didn't miss a single night in there, that I would spend an hour doing this and just really in-depth prayer and just really, and that, especially that manifestation at the end there of really praying, and really speaking, thanking God in advance for what he was going to do. I think that God rewarded that faith with allowing me, to be free for these next few months while we wait for trial. So,
I love that story. You had not shared that story with me before.
Held on to that faith. And another thing is the book of Psalms really helped me out. Had I not read Psalms as much as I did, had I not had people like you and others that God has brought me across along the way, different pastors and different people, I don't think I would have made it at all.
Oh,
and also, real quick, I don't think without the experience I had in the foster care system and having, it's very similar. It's what they're doing to the kids in foster care is very similar. You're basically a prisoner while you're in there too. And so, I think all of that mixed together really helped me to survive through that. Go ahead, Jalise.
That is fantastic, Isaac. I agree with you. I think that gives you a special insight that the rest of us don't have, because we all know that every bit of this is tied together. We're all on different battlegrounds, but it's the same war. And so I think it's awesome that your battle has crossed over into two battles. That's two tours of duty, sir. But I also want to ask you one last question so that our viewers know you a little bit more, because it's what I like to do on these shows. The January 6th defendants, that almost becomes our banner, right? January 6th defendant. But I really want people to see the human being behind it, who you were, who you are now after J6, what's going on with your life now and what God has been doing. Those are the questions that I really want the viewers to walk away knowing. So tell me where you're at now, Isaac. What is happening with your case? Are you back up on your feet? Are you working? Do you have a home? Where are you at?
Yeah, so they, after I got out of the jail, they just completely dumped me out. As you know, I tried finding 2 or 3 different places ahead of time, and that played a big part in their decision to revoke my bond in the first place, was not having a place to stay, even though I provided them your guys' farm and multiple other options. Their goal was to make me homeless and then put me in jail. And then after that, they dumped me out, and I had a good friend down here. She's a nurse who, please keep her in your prayers. She's been very, very sick with meningitis and shingles. She has spinal meningitis and shingles at the same time. She's 70 years old, very, very amazing lady. Her and her husband are great people. They opened up their house for me to rent, and I had been, or am still technically, have this room here for rent. However, I had to come get my dog from me, and I can't have my dog here. So I have another house that, for the purpose of the interview, I'm not moved into yet. I am just simply getting a lot of work done on this house to try to get it ready. It's bought it from the land bank, and it has a lot of work. There's no power, there's no water yet. I do have a generator I've been using, so that has living situation has been hard, but I've been, I've been making do. I don't really need a whole lot. That's one thing God taught me, putting me through all this stuff is, the tangible things are definitely not what makes it. It's the feeling of fulfillment comes from God. I mean, you can have 20 cars and 10 houses, and it's not going to give you the peace that you need unless you have God. And so I'm okay with that situation. I'm definitely working hard to try to get it, sorted out. And then I have a hotel that I work at. I got the job not too long ago. And right now I've been working 3, sometimes 4 days a week if I'm lucky. And I've been trying to find other jobs, but they persecute the J6ers to the point where every news channel in Michigan and all over the country, there's places in Florida and Texas that I've never even heard of these local channels that were just copying and pasting these hit pieces, and all of them said the same thing, copy and pasted. And so pretty much all you have to do is Google my name, and this whole J6 thing comes up, and they paint me as a terrorist, and I'm actually on a terrorist watch list, even though I've never been convicted of anything. So it's really hard to get a good job. But I do, have a job here at this hotel for now, and I'm definitely looking for something better. So if anyone is in Michigan and hears this and has, job availabilities or rental homes, let me know. And, I'm a really hardworking person. I'm a clean person. I'm, responsible. I am 21, but I think I've came a long way. I got emancipated at 16, and I've been living on my own since then. So I'm
I could vouch for that. He lived on my property, and
21, and I think I'm like some college kid going to party. But
no, he's very responsible.
Any opportunities, let me know.
Yeah, I totally vouch for you, Isaac. He might be young, but he's had a rough road that's matured him very hard and very fast, and he's definitely hardworking and clean, and even helped cook and provided me some great company. He's feisty as he could be, so he will definitely challenge your thoughts, and that's great because he'll listen to yours too. So it's really good conversation. So I hope that if anybody has any help for him in Michigan, that you would reach out to Donna or American Patriot Relief, mention the Donna Brandenburg show, and then tell us what you got, and we will get in touch with you. And in the meantime, I hope that anybody out there that is able to assist in some way would definitely reach out. We always ask for donations at AmericanPatriotRelief.org. These get dispersed out back to the January 6th defendants. We're all volunteers, so we're not taking money. That means that you're not paying my wage or anybody's wage. We take it in and we give it right back out. So we always ask for your help with that. But Isaac, you have a Gifts and Go also, don't you?
Yes, I do. I have a January 6th legal defense fund that you guys can donate to. However, right now, legal bills are doing very well. But I was recently just fined $3,500 in a civil case that I am fighting against, where I'm suing, the foster system. And there's actually multiple civil cases I have right now where I'm suing people who, hurt me, people in placements and whatnot that hurt me when I was under the government's care. And so I've started a separate fund, which is the End Government Human Trafficking Fund. And it is specifically for my my legal bills and trying to fight these cases when it comes to all these civil cases I have. And because right now my J6 attorney is paid off, he's also helping me on one of these civil cases. He actually has entered an appearance as well. And so, if you guys would prefer, you could always go to givesendgo.com. You can search my name, and you'll see both the January 6th Legal Fund and the Human Trafficking Fund are gonna show up, and you guys can choose to donate to either one of those. Like I said, I think the Human Trafficking one would be a good one right now because I have to cover this pretty large fee, but I think we're able to fight it right now where we won't have to use your donation money to pay that. But if they order that does still have to be paid, then I'm going to have to pay it, or basically they could dismiss the case. The judge has, ordered me to pay it, but he hasn't given me a timeline or whatnot yet, and so we're still going to try to challenge it. But you guys can definitely support me by going there. You can also go to condemnedusa.com. Trennis Evans he's a great guy, great organization there, and they run my legal fundraiser. And if you're a J6 defendant, or if you have family or friends that are J6 defendants or advocates, or if you're interested in volunteering, you guys can go to condemnedusa.com. Also, if you're interested in looking at video footage as far as evidence of what happened that day, you can always visit stophate.com. That's stophate.com. You're going to see a lot of evidence from David Sumrall and Daniel Goodwin and others who volunteer with them. They have went through thousands of hours of evidence that shows that this was a peaceful protest before these people were attacked, and it definitely blows up their entire narrative. These are the videos I talked about when I said I hope President Trump promotes them. And then you can also, of course, visit American Patriot Relief for Jalise. And one other shout out would be to patriotmailproject.org. That is ran by Paula Calloway and Marie Goodwin, both great people, and they have a database there with all of the January 6th defendants, what jails they're in, their addresses for pretty much every single J6 defendant. It also will have their Give, Send, Go links, who the judge is, basically any of the basic details about their case is going to be there. And you can go and you can click on their profiles, and you can actually send them letters or books or just other things while they're incarcerated. I think there's a way to send a Bible to the J6ers. I know the prisons have been, they won't let the J6ers choose what type of Bible they want. They just will give you a random one. So if you want to send them that's a big help. And then also the last shout out I got, I promise, would be to you can go to j6truth.com or j6truth.org. They own both of those. That's going to be to help with legal bills as far as attorneys' fees and whatnot. That is a much bigger battle because these attorneys, most of them charge thousands of dollars. And J6 Truth it's owned by J6er Jake Lang, who I spoke about earlier. It's been in solitary for 3.5 years, still being held in solitary without a trial. He's never been convicted of a crime. And he actually helped Roseanne Boylan and others who were being trampled over and beaten by the police that day. And is very outspoken and has been persecuted for that. So if you want to help with legal bills, they have a list of attorneys that they help J6ers with, and so you can always go there. And then AmericanGulagChronicles.org is a book with the American Gulag Chronicles. It's a book with letters from the January 6th political hostages, and it shares their firsthand, in-depth stories of handwritten letters from their time in solitary. So it's a very powerful book. I've read it myself, and you'll cry getting 2 pages in. So those are all very good people that me and Jalise have all met and got to spend time with. And when we talk about this kingdom of God and this army of people that we have got to meet and become family with, those are the people some of the people that we talk about. So please continue to keep all of them in your prayers. Like Julie said, we're all pretty much volunteers. We've all given up everything for this because we love our country, we love our freedom, and we love our communities, which is, you guys. We care about the listeners and the people in our communities, and we need some backup because we are definitely, they have a lot of manpower. They're using your guys' tax dollars to come after us. So it would be nice if you guys could, stand with us and help us to conquer this.
Isaac, I appreciate you getting the word out. Every one of those organizations are fantastic. Take your pick on where the Lord is leading you. And I also, for American Patriot Relief, I've got a special request right now. We do have a person in need that's going to require $5,000 that we do not have. So if you would like to give toward that, we sure would appreciate your help. Also, we are getting involved with the Act Blue research. So if you would like to volunteer, you do not need to be where I'm at. You can do this from your computer. I will do a Zoom call training to teach you how to do it. It is very quick and easy. I was surprised. I got on for the first time last night. And you can become one of our volunteers and start researching your area to see how much George Soros' hand has reached into your own backyard. So please go to AmericanPatriotRelief.org for that and get involved today. It is going to affect our elections. And at the end of the day, you may ask, why is American Patriot Relief going down this rabbit hole? And we have decided that our future of January 6th defendants are reliant on this election. So if they successfully steal it again, and I can tell you 98% of what I just looked up last night are obvious fraudulent funds being transferred, then they're going to succeed at it again in a couple of months. So this is very important, and we got to move very fast. Isaac, thank you so much for being on the show. I love that we can bounce on any topic at any time and just talk. But I also love that the viewers are getting to see who are the January 6th defendants. We're not the domestic terrorists they paint us as. We are not evil people. Most of us are Christians, family-oriented, and obvious patriots. So that's still not a dirty word in our book. Isaac, I'm curious. I don't want to put you on the spot too bad.
For everything you guys are doing, and of course we're keeping you guys in our prayers every single day. And so thank you guys very much. And
I'm back incognito, so
and continue to fight the good fight and don't give up.
Excellent. We're not gonna. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm curious if you would like to close us out in prayer. One of the best prayers I've ever heard come from this child.
I'd love to pray for us, Jalise.
Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, God, thank you, Jesus, for this day, Lord. Thank you for your anointing, God, that you have surrounded us with, in your presence, God, and your goodness, Lord. We just want to take time to exalt you, Jesus, exalt you for the miracles that you've done and for being in control, even through all of the chaos and through all of the hardship that we've seen, the trials and tribulations. God, you have remained firm, God, and you have continued to show your love for us despite our imperfections, God, despite our flaws. You have still loved us. And God, we don't deserve this opportunity, God, to represent your kingdom, to be a part of your kingdom, but you have given us this opportunity, not because we're good enough, but because you're good enough, because you make us good enough. And so we're thankful for that. We're thankful for your forgiveness and for your sacrifice, Lord. And we're thankful that we have been given this chance, this opportunity in life to make a difference for all of humankind, God. That's what this fight is. It's a global fight against evil, Lord. And we're glad and proud to be able to stand here with you, Lord, and with your kingdom, and to fight against this evil, Lord. And we pray right now for your divine protection and your intervention over the J6ers over their situations, God, for every single judge as they hear these cases, God, that you will bind the evil that comes out of their mouths, God, that you will bind the decisions that they make when they sentence these people, that these things will not hold firm, but that instead in November we will be able to get these people out of there, God, that these people will not have the last say, that these evil judges will not have the last laugh in this, but God, that you are going to come through, that you are going to save your people, that you are going to make an example of these people who have tried to make an example of your people. And we know that that won't happen, God. We know that you won't fail us. And we've seen time and time again in the Bible, Lord, where your word, it tells us where these groups of 10,000 people took on armies of hundreds of thousands, and they won, God. And we know that the odds may not be in our favor, Jesus, but that because you are a miracle worker, because you are the Lord of the universe, God, that it is all going to be okay, that we don't have to worry about what these sentences are and what these, how these cases turn out, God. And we know it may be hard to hear that the United States of America versus Isaac or versus Jalise, but God, right now this is your kingdom for America right now, and you're trying to save this country because this country was founded on a very specific idea, Lord, that you created us and that you give us our rights and our purpose and that you placed us here. That our government doesn't control us. Our government doesn't grant us, our rights as human beings, as your children, but that instead you are God. You are the highest. You have the last say, God. These people have no power and no authority. Their badges and their case numbers and all of this man-made, this whole system that they have created, it holds no authority, but that the only authority and the only power is in the name of Jesus. And we thank you for that, God. And we lift your name high, Lord. Again, please give divine peace to every person listening to this, to every J6er in solitary, Lord. Help their families, help the ones, especially the J6ers that are suffering from cancer and these other diseases as they're rotting away, God. Give them physical healing, along with the spiritual and mental healing that we ask for, God. And we thank you, Jesus, and we love you, and we praise you, and we know that you've got great things in store for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you so much for that, Isaac. That is an absolutely beautiful prayer. I don't think I could add to it and make it any more defined of where my heart lies. So with that, I hope the viewers feel like they know you a little bit better and will keep you in their prayer along with me and all January 6th defendants. And stay tuned in to Donna here. I think she's on the line. I'll let her finish that up. But
I am, but I'm going to do it in incognito here. So I'm getting into relax mode.
I'll point to her name.
Yeah, there you go. Go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com because I am the best non-conceder who's ever not conceded in the history of the United States. And you know what, guys, remember, God is in fact in control and there's nothing to worry about. So you know what? We got a great weekend out of us. Go relax, enjoy your family, and don't let them steal your joy, no matter what it is. Keep yourself focused on God, whether in plenty or in nothing, whether in loss or no matter what it is. God is in control, and he can restore everything. He is the great restorer and such. So if you feel sad about anything, just give it to God and watch the miracles just fall from his hands. So without heart hands today, unless Jalise wants to do it, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love. And God bless America. Make it a great day. It starts with you. It starts with mental toughness. Go out there and take this world on. That's what he's asking us to do with his strength, his timing, and his direction. And it'll be just fine. It'll be okay. And have a great weekend. And I will see you Tuesday. And a good Labor Day to all.
God bless.